안녕하십니까. 저는 PTC 코리아에서 기술 총괄 업무를 담당하고 있는 지수민 상무입니다. 우선 시작에 앞서 PLM 버추얼 컨퍼런스 2022년도 디지털 스레드 기반의 협업 환경 혁신에 참여해 주신 여러분께 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 오늘날 제조기업은 다양한 위기에 직면해 있습니다. 기업은 디지털 트랜스포메이션 전략을 통해서 위기 극복을 위해 더 복잡해진 제조 프로세스와 제품 구성을 해결하려고 노력을 하고 있으며, PLM은 제품 디지털 스레드 역량을 통해서 디지털 트랜스포메이션 전략을 완성할 수 있는 핵심 기술이 되었습니다. 오늘 저희는 PTC 윈칠 PLM을 통해 글로벌 기업이 어떻게 제조 프로세스와 제품 정보를 연결하고 또 활용을 하는지 4개의 에피소드를 통해서 소개를 해 드리려고 합니다. 에피소드 1은 데이터의 전사적 활용을 통해서 다양한 글로벌 팀의 활동을 어떻게 지원하는지 제데프사의 사례를 통해서 설명을 드릴 겁니다. 에피소드 2는 제품 요구사항부터 제조 서비스까지의 그 엔드-투-엔드 구성 관리를 베스타사는 어떻게 활용을 하고 제조 공장 및 현장 동시 작업까지 배포를 하는지 사례를 소개해 드리려고 하고, 그 다음에 에피소드 3는 디지털 가상 제품 정보를 통해서 전사 제품 정보를 어떻게 공유하는지, 이 모델 기반의 엔터프라이즈 지원 환경을 어떻게 완성했는지 보시사의 사례를 통해서 전달 드리려고 합니다. 마지막으로 시스템 운영의 유연성을 제공해서 경계 없는 협업 환경을 어떻게 완성할 수 있는지 저희가 이제 사스 PLM인 윈칠의 케이스를 가지고 소개를 드릴 겁니다. 저희가 준비한 이 4개의 에피소드를 통해서 실무에서 꼭 필요한 인사이트를 얻을 수 있는 시간이 되시길 바라며, 세션 도중에 언제든지 궁금한 것이 있으면 오른쪽 채팅창에 질문을 남겨주시면 저희가 실시간으로 답변을 드리겠습니다. 지금부터 PTC 버추얼 컨퍼런스를 시작하겠습니다. 즐거운 시간이 되시길 바라겠습니다.
The entire automotive ecosystem is moving at lightning speed. There are dozens of up-and-coming car companies and suppliers fighting to remain competitive. Cars are now updated with over-the-air software. Electrification has become commonplace. Hydrogen fuel cells, shared mobility, autonomous driving, it's all happening at the blink of an eye. Businesses need to adapt quickly, and collaboration must be seamless. One of these companies is ZF. ZF, one of the largest and most respected Tier 1 automotive suppliers, is at the forefront of this innovation. Designing, manufacturing, and servicing the driveline, chassis, and safety systems for passenger cars, trucks, buses, and motorcycles. To remain competitive with the rapid changes in the industry, they have to keep pace and adapt. Wolfgang Rudell has been at ZF for 20 plus years. During his career at ZF, he's done everything from designing disc brakes to working on the quality side of engineering to new product technical sales. Now, in the electronics division, he shares his perspective on how ZF has put digital at the core of everything, enabling a radical redesign of almost all their business models, processes, products, and services.
We had major changes there in the last years, where we come from this traditional divisional thinking that, okay, there is the active safety division selling a brake system, there is the C division selling the suspension system. Now we are more working in so-called system houses, where all the different divisions working together on one product so that you don't have these boundaries anymore. It's more virtual teams across the globe with the mindset of we need to deliver this one system to the customer.
You're using Windchill across your businesses, but tell me, how is that helping?
Because we are now all on one system and be able to use the same data, it's really just one flow. We are developing the ECU or the PCBA for an electronic brake booster. The active safety division takes our product, our bill of material, put it into their bill of material, and we can see directly that when we are changing something, it's impacting their production. So we can include them much earlier into design decisions. We can include them earlier into change processes. And the same way, the other way around. If they are seeing some issues with the installation of our PCBA in their product, they can directly request a change to our components. It's working together in the same data sets and being able to see the impacts right away.
There's currently an effort to also unify ZF's IT landscape by connecting their various CAD tools.
On the authoring layer, we are looking where is the best value for us. So that's why we have various MCAD tools in place, but on the ECAD side, we just have one. Also on the software side, we have a very strong software for ZF initiative that harmonized the software development. But at the end, everything comes back to the product, and we are connecting the CAD systems into Windchill so that we can drive the BOM structure out of the CAD structure, but we can also, if we are updating the BOM, automatically update the CAD. It's one data set for the product, so we are also now trying to merge it even with more data in the digital twin. The main benefit for us with Windchill is that it's open. We are not forced to use just one CAD system or one requirement system. We can connect to the best.
Nadine Groves is Configuration Manager for ZF's advanced next-generation steering systems that allows drivers to whip cars around tight city corners with more agility than ever before. She says a lot of her customers want to customize the embedded software, which involves working together and collaborating with Wolfgang's electronics division to fulfill customer requests. You have to work with other parts of ZF, for example, the electronics division. So how do you collaborate with both of those?
The responsible department creates a new change request in the Windchill system to document the request, maybe also the request number of the customers, so to have really good reliability there, traceability. Then I can also involve the team from the division U, so our electronic group, and can directly bring them into our CR. And they can really collaborate with us together in that one work item in the system. We can really share the documents so everybody is on the same information level, have the same documents available there, and can then directly put the decision in the same CR, in the same item, so you really have all the information together there.
Quickly sharing information is critical, but also comes with a security risk, especially when distributed teams are working remotely. I went back to Wolfgang to learn more. How are you dealing with that and sharing data with your customers and partners so outside the firewall?
What we have implemented in Windchill itself is a very strict access control model where internally we are able to see what we need to see. So I can go in and search for something. If division R, our occupant safety system division, has it, I can reuse it. So there is not lockup for me as an internal user. But if we are collaborating with our partners developing, for example, LiDAR sensors, they can only see their specific set of data inside Windchill. So we are using their project link to share the data with them. Yeah, we can control what they can see, what they cannot see.
The way you're using Windchill is really out of the box using the standard processes. But then for role and task-based apps, that's when you're bringing in ThingWorx to then deliver data.
What we are trying to do is avoiding Windchill customizations and putting all this into a ThingWorx app that we can control, where we can also give a lot better user guidance. You can do an app very fast, very effective for a small user group. If you're trying to do this in Windchill with a customization, it's a huge effort. With developing it, testing it, UAT,
so you want to avoid that.
build control. I was never thinking that I would be able to deliver 24 standalone apps related to Windchill with 1 year, but I'm in the middle of it. I already have 6 new ones just coming up the last 3 weeks.
With this incredible rate of change, ZF must also ensure the right product is delivered from the factories to the customers and that they are not missing important pieces of information.
ZF is currently doing a huge initiative in the factories to implement a digital job floor. So not like in the past where you printed out the papers, putting it on the board. On the quality validation use cases, we are reducing the amount of errors there. With AR, we cannot stay focused for 8 hours on one and the same activity. That's impossible for a human. And that's why AR helps us to get this repetitive task fully automated. With AR, you are just going with the handheld device around the product and everything is done. In the past, the worker needed to take the camera, need to take all the pictures, then he needs to transfer the files to the PC, needs to put it to the right serial number. All this is now fully automated. And in addition, we are doing this plausibility check of the label to the product shape that was impossible before.
As a global automotive leader, ZF is also aware of its impact on the environment. The manufacturer's target is to achieve climate neutrality by 2040 and an 80% reduction in CO2 emissions at its facilities by 2030.
We want to be CO2 neutral as soon as possible. Windchill is helping us here with calculating the CO2 footprint of our products. We also want to calculate the footprint as soon as possible in the development process and also base our design decisions on the impact on the CO2 footprint. With Windchill data, you can forecast how the real product will look like. And with this data, you can put it into a CO2 calculation tool and then calculate different design options, which one will have the best CO2 footprint.
With 9 divisions and 150,000 employees spread around the globe, organizational change of this magnitude does not come without challenges.
How are people adopting this?
We just had here on the Koblenz plant a new initiative about the whole future of Koblenz and being an innovative location of ZF, including the unions helping out here to shape the future of the different locations. And that helped people, especially on the production or on the working level, to really participate on these changes so they are involved in all these things. If you're involved and you see the benefit that is coming out there, not only for ZF, but also for you personally, having all these new opportunities, having all this new amazing stuff to work on, that's how we are trying to convince our people that adaptation is something good.
What does this mean to you personally?
For me, being part of this whole Windchill implementation since 2012 now, it's an amazing personal experience. Around the globe, we are working together, making something incredibly happening, where in my first workshop about Windchill 10.1, after the workshop, my boss told me, this will never happen. We will never be able to do it. With great colleagues around the globe, I was part of it to make it happen. We have implemented a foundation, it's still growing, still getting new opportunities every single day. As I told you, 6 new applications on ThingWorx within the last 3 weeks. It's really fun to deliver something, and I'm this kind of person that is motivated by delivering success.
ZF's journey is an exciting story of digital transformation with PLM as the foundation. In building the next generation of clean, safe, and affordable vehicles, ZF is revolutionizing business models, processes, products, and services for a better and brighter future with 0 emissions, 0 accidents, and 0 downtime.
안녕하십니까. PTC에서 PLM 솔루션 컨설팅을 담당하고 있는 윤원섭입니다. 오늘 제가 발표할 세션의 초점은 기업의 협업과 관련하여 증가하고 있는 주제인 PLM 데이터를 글로벌 엔터프라이즈 전체로 확장하는 것입니다. 발표 시작에 앞서 혹시 제가 발표하는 도중에 질문이 있으실 경우 채팅창에 질문을 남겨주시면 전문가분들께서 실시간으로 답변해 주실 예정입니다. 그럼 지금부터 세션 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 오늘날 우리는 물리적, 지리적으로 분산되어 있고 부서 간 기능적으로 분리되어 있으며 시스템에 의한 정보의 접근 권한이 개별적으로 제한되어 있습니다. 이러한 제한적 요인 모두를 결합하는 협업은 기업 성공에 있어 중요한 요소가 되었으며 시간, 비용 및 품질에 영향을 미치는 가장 큰 문제가 되었습니다. PTC가 지향하는 디지털 트랜스포메이션과 디지털 스레드의 근본적 목표는 확장된 엔터프라이즈 전반에 걸친 더 나은 협업입니다. 이산형 제조업체의 트랜스포메이션 기반은 엔지니어링에서 비롯된 제품 데이터의 관리 및 공유에 있고 이것이 설계 엔지니어가 제품 데이터를 저작하는 이유이기도 합니다. 제품 데이터는 제품을 생산, 판매, 유지 또는 서비스해야 하는 기업의 다른 부서들을 위한 리소스가 됩니다. 설계 엔지니어가 CAD 설계를 하면서 데이터의 일부를 변경해야 할 경우 발생된 변경 사항을 디지털 스레드에 있는 구매, 제조, 품질, 서비스 또는 판매 부서의 사용자에게 어떻게 공유하면 될까요? 이러한 제품 데이터 공유는 조직 전체에서 다양한 방식으로 발생할 수 있습니다. 직원이 직접 인쇄물을 출력하거나 설계 엔지니어에게 전화 또는 이메일을 보내 직접 자료를 전달받을 수도 있습니다. 또는 제품 데이터가 저장된 위치에 직접 액세스할 수 있는 권한을 가지고 이를 찾기 위해 수많은 도구를 검색해야 하는 일도 있습니다. 이러한 여러 가지 불필요한 장벽을 제거하고 엔터프라이즈 전체의 PLM 데이터를 안전하게 공유해야 하는 것이 필요합니다. 띵웍스 내비게이터를 사용하면 역할 및 작업 기반 앱을 통한 하나의 뷰에서 최신 온라인 PLM 콘텐츠에 액세스하고 가치사슬 전반의 공동 작업자에게 이를 제공할 수 있습니다. 다만 이렇게 누구나 PLM 데이터를 활용할 수 있도록 공유하는 일은 작은 시작일 뿐입니다. 조직 전체에서의 적극적인 협업을 지원하고 장려하는 양방향에서의 노력이 필요하며 다른 시스템의 온라인 데이터와 결합된 PLM 데이터를 사용자에게 제공하여 상황에 따라 필요한 모든 관련 정보로 작업과 의사결정을 지원해야 합니다. 윈칠 및 띵웍스 내비게이터를 사용하면 확장된 엔터프라이즈에 연결할 수 있는 협업 플랫폼을 구축할 수도 있습니다. 띵웍스 내비게이터는 확장된 PLM 사용자가 최신 사용자 경험을 통해 양질의 결정을 내리고 시간을 절약할 수 있도록 지원하고 있습니다. 조직의 모든 사람이 신뢰할 수 있는 단일 제품 데이터 소스를 사용하여 PLM 프로세스를 보고 액세스하여 사용할 수 있습니다. 내비게이터는 웹브라우저 기반으로 지원되기 때문에 지원되는 웹브라우저라면 종류에 상관없이 사용자가 노트북 또는 태블릿에서 필요한 PLM 데이터에 언제든지 쉽게 접근할 수 있습니다. 내비게이터를 활용하는 세 가지 방법을 안내해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째는 뷰입니다. 뷰는 2D 및 3D에서 부품 구조, 문서, 설계 및 도면을 포함한 PLM 컨텐츠를 쉽게 검색하고 액세스하여 확인 및 다운로드 할 수 있는 역할별 OOTBM 모음입니다. 그럼 뷰 앱의 예시를 보겠습니다. 뷰 파트 스트럭처와 같은 뷰 앱을 사용하면 사용자는 부품 또는 어셈블리와 관련된 주요 속성을 볼 수 있고 단순화된 봄을 검색하고 모델에서 강조 표시된 구조의 각 부품의 위치를 확인하는 기능을 포함하여 3D 모델과 상호작용할 수 있습니다. 이러한 3D 모델은 실제 제품의 디지털 표현으로 사용됩니다. 역할별로 앱을 맞춤화하여 운영자, 서비스 기술자, 구매 에이전트, 생산 계획자, 품질 관리자 등에게 PLM 컨텐츠에 대한 읽기 전용 액세스 권한을 제공하고 일상적인 작업을 지원할 수 있습니다. 두 번째는 컨트리뷰트입니다. 변경 관리와 같은 PLM 프로세스에 참여해야 할 경우 컨트리뷰트를 통해 그 역할에 참여할 수 있습니다. 내비게이터는 컨트리뷰트를 통해 조직의 모든 사용자가 적극적으로 참여할 수 있도록 변경 요청, 검토 및 승인 가능한 마이 태스크와 뒤에 설명드릴 문제 보고서의 두 가지 표준 OOTB 컨트리뷰트 앱을 제공하고 있습니다. 마이 태스크 앱은 변경 검토 프로세스를 조직 전체의 올바른 이해 관계자로 확장하여 해당 관계자들이 변경 사항을 확인하고 댓글을 달거나 승인, 재할당 또는 거부 처리를 할 수 있도록 합니다. 이해 관계자 참여를 확대하고 단순화하면 변경 관리 속도와 정확성을 개선할 수 있고 예상치 못한 결과의 빈도와 영향도 줄일 수 있습니다. 내비게이터 9.3의 최신 개선 사항에서는 윈칠에서 관리되는 전자서명을 지원하여 감사에 대한 규정 준수 및 추적성을 보장하기도 합니다. 규제 대상 산업의 경우 전자서명 지원을 통해 중요한 변경 사항에 대한 승인 속도를 높일 수 있습니다. 그럼 PTC의 OOTB 앱이 여러분이 필요로 하는 뷰를 보여주지 않는다면 어떻게 해야 하는지 궁금하시리라 생각됩니다. 확장된 PLM 사용자가 더 많은 정보를 얻고 생산성을 높일 수 있도록 비즈니스별 요구사항 또는 프로세스가 있을 것입니다. 띵웍스 IoT 플랫폼을 기반으로 신속한 앱 개발에 대한 액세스를 제공하여 여러분이 가지고 있는 커스텀 앱 니즈를 충족시켜 드릴 수 있는 커넥티드 PLM 내비게이터를 활용하는 것이 세 번째 방법입니다. 커넥티드 PLM은 OOTB PTC 앱을 사용자가 정의하거나 기업에 맞춰 기업만의 고유한 앱을 구축할 수 있습니다. 앱 빌더가 재사용 가능한 내비게이터 구성 요소에 액세스하여 개발 시간을 단축하고 최종 사용자에게 더 빨리 앱을 제공할 수도 있습니다. 구성 요소는 일관된 모양과 느낌을 위해 논리 및 기능을 시각화하여 결합하였고 업그레이드 가능성을 고려하여 설계되었습니다. 프로덕션 플래너용 커스텀 앱에서 작동하는 구성 요소의 예를 살펴보겠습니다. 생산 계획자가 부품을 검색한다고 가정해 봅시다. 이 앱은 부품 관련 변경 사항 및 데이터 시트와 같은 다양한 데이터를 표시하도록 구성된 앱의 여러 부분 중에 아이템 ID 구성 요소 및 아이템 목록 구성 요소를 사용하고 있습니다. 화면에 보시는 것처럼 검색의 마지막 탭에는 추가 작업 체크리스트 정보를 표시하기 위해 타사 시스템인 지라에서 가져온 데이터도 표시하고 있습니다. 퓨전 OOTB 앱은 PLM 콘텐츠 및 프로세스에 중점을 두고 있는 반면에 커넥티드 PLM으로 만든 커스텀 앱은 타사 엔터프라이즈 시스템과 쉽게 연결되어 추가 작업을 표시하거나 제품의 구조, 원가 또는 재고 정보 등을 표시할 수 있습니다. 내비게이터 9.3에는 전자서명 지원 외에도 컨트리뷰트의 문제 보고서 앱에 대한 새로운 개선 사항도 있습니다. 문제 보고서 앱은 엔지니어링과 기업 내 부서들의 양방향 커뮤니케이션을 가능하게 하는 좋은 예시입니다. 문제 보고서 앱의 새로운 개선 사항을 통해 문서, 도면 또는 부품을 보고 있는 사용자는 발견한 모든 문제를 즉시 보고할 수 있습니다. 이 방법으로 엔지니어링은 특정 담당자가 최신 도면을 가지고 있는지, 절차를 설명하는 문서가 잘못되지는 않았는지, 제조가 가지고 있는 나사 크기가 잘못된 것은 아닌지 등의 문제를 인식할 수 있습니다. 문제 보고서는 최종 사용자가 작성한 설명, 첨부 파일 및 기타 세부 정보와 함께 윈칠에서 생성되며 변경 관리자는 문제의 심각도와 수정사항을 결정하기 위해 검토가 필요한 그룹에게 보낼 수 있습니다. 더 많은 이해관계자가 띵웍스 내비게이터 디지털 앱을 사용하여 발생한 이슈와 문제를 보고할 수 있게 되면 제품 및 프로세스 품질을 개선하는 데 도움이 될 것입니다. 다음으로 조직의 사일로를 무너뜨리고 기업 전체에서 제품 데이터를 확장한 실제 내비게이터 고객의 몇 가지 사례를 소개하겠습니다. 보쉬는 조직 전체의 비엔지니어링 팀이 지능적인 방식으로 제품 데이터에 참여할 수 있는 환경을 구축해야 했습니다. 서로 다른 시스템에서 25년 동안 축적된 데이터를 윈칠에 통합한 후 내비게이터를 사용하여 엔지니어링 외부의 팀이 해당 제품 및 기업 데이터에 액세스할 수 있도록 함으로써 수백만 유로의 비용을 절감할 수 있게 되었습니다. 존슨앤존슨은 제품 개발 시간을 단축하여 시장 출시를 앞당기기 위해 데이터 공유와 더 나은 협업을 필요로 했었습니다. BPLM 사용자도 최소한의 교육을 받으면 사용할 수 있는 DOC 뷰어 포탈을 만들었고 표준 운영 절차를 수행하기 위해 규제 및 작업 현장 사용자에게 주요 문서를 제공했습니다. 존슨앤존슨은 내비게이터는 가장 빠른 엔터프라이즈 통합을 통해 사용자에게 제공할 수 있는 최고의 사용자 경험으로 많은 가치를 제공한다고 말을 했습니다. 제데프는 전 세계 여러 팀에서 다양한 제품의 수많은 프로젝트를 관리하고 있었으며 적절한 정보를 올바른 맥락으로 필요한 대상에게 제공해야 했습니다. 제데프는 전사적 디지털 스레드의 백본으로 윈칠 및 띵웍스 내비게이터를 표준화하고 있었고 띵웍스 내비게이터를 통한 신속한 역할 기반 앱의 개발을 통해 공장에 있는 현장 사용자가 PLM 정보를 수작업으로 받아볼 필요 없이 실시간으로 확인할 수 있게 되었습니다. 그리고 실시간 정보는 올바른 데이터임을 항상 확신할 수 있게 되었고 누군가가 시스템에서 무언가를 하고 있다면 바로 확인이 가능하게 되었습니다. 이러한 고객 사례들처럼 띵웍스 내비게이터의 앱은 높은 수준의 커스터마이징이 가능하기 때문에 기업 전체의 작업 현장, 품질 부서 및 기타 비엔지니어링 사용자와 실시간 데이터 공유를 가능하게 합니다. 승인 및 릴리즈된 도면을 검색하거나 문제 보고서를 제출할 때 내비게이터는 원활하고 빠르며 안전합니다. PTC 홈페이지에서 무료 평가판을 액세스하여 띵웍스 내비게이터를 직접 사용해 보시기를 바랍니다. 지금까지 표준 띵웍스 내비게이터 뷰 및 컨트리뷰트 제품에서 사용 가능한 OOTB 가치와 함께 전자서명을 포함한 내비게이터 9.3의 주요 개선 사항에 대해 설명했습니다. 커넥티드 PLM을 사용하여 비즈니스 특정 요구 사항에 맞게 사용자 지정의 개발 및 다중 시스템 연결을 용이하게 하는 방법을 보여드렸고, 문제보고서 앱을 통해 기업의 모든 사용자가 뷰앱 내에서 문제를 보고하고 대상 객체와 함께 문제보고서를 제출할 수 있는 기능에 대해 설명드렸습니다. 다음 릴리즈에는 글로벌 기업 전체에서 PLM 데이터를 공유하고 확장하여 보다 협업적이고 생산적인 인력을 위해 사일로를 허물도록 지원하는 새 기능들이 더 많이 제공될 예정입니다. 감사합니다.
Hello, I'm Christoph Breuchle, VP of Product Innovation Management within PTC's PLM Group. It's my job to look for companies that are pushing the limits of their software tools and processes, and to deliver PLM innovations through Windchill that help them achieve their aspirational goals. Today, no goal is more aspirational nor more challenging than sustainability. Sustainability is a top priority in the product lifecycle, from product definition and development through production and to recycling. Sustainability is not just important for brand reputation. It is essential for economic success, and discrete manufacturing companies need a sustainability strategy in multiple areas. They need a strategy to develop, produce and sell sustainable products with eco-friendly materials, low energy consumption and circularity for maximum recyclability and effective waste reduction. They need a strategy in production to lower carbon footprint in factories, logistics and supply chains, and to also reduce quality issues to minimize waste and rework. They need a strategy to reduce indirect carbon footprint by optimizing energy and resource consumption in offices and plants. And this even includes things like events or travel logistics. Well, as I said, these are aspirational goals, and because of that, complete lifecycle management and a seamless digital thread are essential prerequisites for sustainable products and production. You see, one of the biggest challenges with sustainability is that the impacts of decisions are often felt elsewhere. In some cases, within other organizations of the same company, but just as often outside the walls of your business. Take carbon footprint, for example. A product's true carbon footprint is a sum across the stages of its life cycle, starting from raw material production and pre-processing to production, distribution, usage, and disposal. To evaluate how a decision, for example, a material change, would affect carbon footprint requires information from each stage of the product life cycle. And to gather this information efficiently, that requires a digital thread. A digital thread-based sustainability strategy connects engineering with other processes like procurement and supply chain collaboration and logistics. It feeds the relevant information into service management and manufacturing execution systems, for example, in order to optimize sustainability across the entire product life cycle. The digital thread connects processes, systems, and data, including requirements definition, system architecture, and product design and development, product validation, production planning and manufacturing, sales and distribution, product operation and service, all the way to decommissioning and recycling. The digital thread enables insights on resource consumption and emissions in every stage of this life cycle. It not only gives companies a clear picture of status, but it also helps identifying and implementing required improvements. PTC's digital thread solutions with CAD, ALM, PLM, and IoT systems drive sustainability initiatives. Here's just a snapshot of how our customers are addressing sustainability using PTC technology. With Creo, PTC's CAD for digital thread, customers are using generative design and design for additive manufacturing to significantly reduce material waste in the production process. They are also using these capabilities for lightweighting to reduce emissions when products like cars or airplanes are operated. With our application lifecycle management systems, our customers manage sustainability requirements that are deeply connected to their software. They validate the actual product performance against those requirements to comply with global and country-specific regulations. With Windchill, PTC's PLM for digital thread, customers are implementing circular economy principles, such as material substitution that helps them to consolidate product components and maximize recyclability, or upcycling, or even remanufacturing. In other cases, Windchill-based manufacturing process management and planning is used for seamless downstream connection of product definition to production. So they optimize the use of production resources. Last, but certainly not least, our ThingWorx IoT solutions orchestrate this data. They pull up-to-date information from products in the field and processes in the factory to calculate carbon footprint, cost, and waste. And with ThingWorx-based digital performance management, our customers are optimizing production processes. They are identifying bottlenecks and reducing rework. Let's shift our focus now and talk about the business value of sustainability. Industry leaders no longer look at sustainability as just a burden enforced by regulation, but really as a tremendous opportunity to deliver greater value to customers and investors. Sustainability is the mark of a business that understands its value chain, starting with component and material sourcing, to operations within their organization, to the life of the product once it's left the factory. Design and engineering data from PLM is combined with real data coming from the physical world via IoT for a digital thread along the entire value chain. Armed with this information, sustainable organizations can drive material and energy efficiencies that cut cost and improve the bottom line while also improving their environmental impact. They can identify opportunities for recycling and reuse, maximizing the value they deliver while minimizing waste. As long as a company is equipped with the necessary information and tools, nearly every measure of sustainability can be used to drive more traditional business metrics in a new, transformative way. And so, the return on investment for sustainability projects comes in many forms beyond the social and environmental good. Enterprise benefits include improved brand reputation and goodwill, improved company culture and employee engagement, reduction of materials and energy consumption, and increased top and bottom line through recycling and reuse programs. And of course, the ability to compete in markets with increasingly comprehensive and strict environment, health, and safety regulations. With Windchill and our other digital thread offerings, PTC gives you the power to create a digital thread and drive sustainability for your enterprise.
안녕하십니까? PTC 코리아에서 ALM 솔루션 컨설팅 업무를 담당하고 있는 이상한 부장입니다. 저는 오늘 글로벌 업무 준수 향상을 위한 엔터프라이즈 ALM 통합 솔루션이라는 주제를 가지고 이야기를 하고자 합니다. 먼저 세션에 앞서 ALM 관련 궁금한 질문이 있으시면 지금 실시간 채팅으로 남겨주시면 저희 ALM 전문가가 답변을 해드리도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 ALM이 무엇인지 간략히 소개한 후 엔터프라이즈 ALM 통합 솔루션을 관리하기 위한 방안으로 PTC 코드빔을 통해 소프트 개발을 위한 시스템 엔지니어링 어플리케이션 개발 및 유지 보수에 대한 전 공정 과정, 그리고 유관 부서와의 업무 연계를 통한 글로벌 업무 표준을 효율적으로 준수할 수 있었는지 글로벌 제조 사례를 통해 살펴보고자 합니다. 또한 PTC의 코드빔 ALM 솔루션을 활용하여 어떻게 성공적인 소프트웨어 개발 협업을 구현했는지 함께 소개합니다. 오늘날 우리는 소프트웨어가 더 많은 역할을 수행함에 따라 소프트웨어 개발의 중요성이 더욱 부각되고 있습니다. 모든 제조산업군에서 시스템 제품 개발과 관련된 수명 주기를 조정하는 데 있어 어려움을 겪고 있습니다. 이에 따라 하드웨어, 소프트웨어, 서비스 구성 요소 개발자가 복잡해진 IoT 디바이스 기기를 연결하게 됨으로써 이전에 경험하지 못한 미션에 직면하게 되었습니다. 그럼 먼저 ALM이 무엇인지 살펴보도록 하겠습니다. ALM이란 어플리케이션 라이프 사이클 매니지먼트의 약자로서 소프트웨어 어플리케이션 제품의 수명 주기를 관리하는 것을 말합니다. 보시는 바와 같이 ALM은 프로젝트 관리, 요구사항 관리를 통하여 소프트웨어 아키텍처 및 소스 개발, 그리고 소프트웨어 테스트에 이어 제품 개발 전 과정에 필요한 변경 관리, 릴리즈 관리까지의 주요 과정을 포함하고 있습니다. ALM을 도입함으로써 기업의 구축 비용을 감소시키고 안정적 유지 보수를 통해 통합된 현업 환경 구축을 도와주는 효과가 있습니다. 그렇다면 기업에서 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM을 어떻게 구축하는지 살펴보도록 하겠습니다. 소프트웨어를 개발하는 많은 기업에서 변화하는 비즈니스 프로세스를 신속하고 유연하게 관리하기 위한 통합된 업무 관리 솔루션으로 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM을 구축하게 됩니다. 예를 들면 글로벌 또는 국내 자동차 산업에서 소프트웨어 개발 프로세스로 많이 알려진 포포스 모델의 확장된 형태 중 하나인 V 모델을 통해 많은 기업들이 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM을 구축하고 있습니다. 그렇다면 기업에서 적용한 실제 사례를 함께 보도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째, 자율주행 소프트웨어 개발을 위해 ALM을 적용한 BMW 사례입니다. 현재 개발 프로세스의 변화로 인한 애자일 개발 환경 지원을 하는 것이 무엇보다 중요하고 BMW 스크럼 마스터인 프레딕 셔먼 역시 자율주행 개발을 위해 ALM을 도입할 때 애자일 개발 환경을 지원함으로써 프로세스를 완벽하게 제어할 수 있었다고 말하였습니다. 복잡한 소프트웨어 개발 프로세스에 투입된 많은 개발자들이 제품 개발 전 라이프 사이클에 걸쳐 ALM은 추적성과 투명성이 중요하다는 사실은 안전규정 준수 ISO 26262 또는 ASPICE를 통해 이미 확인된 바 있습니다. 두 번째로는 안전기준 준수를 위한 요구사항 개발을 위해 ALM을 도입한 우주항공산업 나사의 사례입니다. 자동차 산업에서와 동일하게 안전규정 준수를 위한 국제표준인 ISO 26262 인증을 위해 나사는 ALM을 도입하기 전에 기존에 사용해오던 요구사항 저장 및 버전 관리와 관련된 모든 고전적인 문제점을 가지고 있었다라고 OPS 랩의 샤샤 숀차냐가 말하였습니다. 나사는 요구사항 관리를 위한 전문 ALM 툴을 도입하기 전 MS 오피스 제품을 그동안 요구사항 관리를 해왔었고 PTC 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM 솔루션을 도입하게 됨으로써 ISO 26262 인증을 획득하게 되었습니다. 마지막으로 의료기기 제조 산업에서 ALM을 도입하여 개발 표준 준수를 이룬 비풋이라는 회사에 대해 이야기해 보겠습니다. 의료기기 제품을 만들기 위한 소프트웨어 개발 표준 프로세스인 IC62304, ISO 14971을 준수하기 위해 소프트웨어 엔지니어인 선임이사인 알란 샤클라는 지속적인 통합 시스템을 위한 일환으로 요구사항 및 검증을 위해 소프트 테스트 및 최신 테스트 결과 간의 즉각적인 추적을 제공하는 결과 방식을 위해 ALM을 도입한 것이 가장 큰 가치라고 말하였습니다. 그렇다면 PTC에서 제공하고 있는 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM 솔루션이 무엇인지 살펴보도록 하겠습니다. PTC에서 제공하는 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM 솔루션은 코드비머에 대해 소개하겠습니다. PTC 코드비머는 요구사항, 위험 및 테스트 관리의 프로세스를 통해 빠르고 효율적으로 더 나은 제품을 만드는 ALM 솔루션입니다. 코드비머를 통해 고도로 업무를 확장할 수 있으며 제품 개발 전 과정에 걸친 복잡한 프로세스를 관리할 수 있습니다. 또한 코드비머는 REST와 스와그 API를 통해 유관 부서와의 업무 협업을 위한 방법으로 툴체인을 구성할 수 있도록 지원하고 있습니다. 변화되고 있는 ALM 개발 프로세스, 환경 지원을 위해 확장된 에자일 모델을 제공하여 제품 개발에 중요한 품질을 유지하고 규정을 준수하면서 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM 솔루션으로서 자리매김하고 있습니다. 앞에서 설명드린 바와 같이 포포스 모델, V 모델에 이어 에자일 방식까지 하이브리드 프로세스를 지원하는 것은 PTC 코드비머만이 가진 장점이라고 말씀드릴 수 있습니다. PTC 코드비머는 품질 규정 준수를 위한 국제 표준에 의거 툴 자체로서의 품질 인증 또한 받았다는 사실을 강조드리고 싶습니다. 그럼 다음 동영상을 통해 PTC 코드비머의 특징에 대해 살펴보도록 하겠습니다. PTC 코드비머는 차세대 ALM 솔루션의 필요성을 충족시킴으로써 다양한 제조 산업군에서 소프트웨어 제품 개발을 위한 선두주자로서 자리매김하고 있습니다. 코드비머는 작업 효율과 협업을 증가시키고 제품 출시 시간 및 비용을 단축시키며 품질 및 신뢰성을 유지시키는 것을 가능하게 합니다. 코드비머는 요구사항 관리, 소프트웨어 개발, 테스트 및 품질 관리, 위험 관리, 변경 관리 등과 관련된 기능을 지원하고 글로벌 업무 표준 준수의 핵심인 추적성, 투명성, 협업 기능을 통해 통합된 애플리케이션 라이프 사이클 관리를 위한 기능 플랫폼을 제공합니다. 또한 코드비머 ALM 솔루션은 자동차 산업의 자율주행 차량 제품 개발과 같이 기능 안전 준수를 목표로 하는 제조 산업군에서 PTC ALM 통합 솔루션이 중요한 역할을 하고 있습니다. 코드비머는 의료, 자동차, 항공전자, 그리고 제약산업과 같은 제조산업군에 필요한 템플릿 기능 지원을 통해 설계 및 개발 시 기능 종단 간 추적성을 지원하고 프로젝트 제품 개발 전반의 위험을 관리하며 기능 안전 표준 준수를 목표로 하는 산업군의 엔터프라이즈 에자일 확장성을 지원합니다. 보시는 바와 같이 IC62304, ISO 14971, IC60601 등과 같은 의료산업의 기술 개발을 위해 에자일 메디컬 ALM을 지원하고 자동차 시스템 개발의 핵심인 ISO 26262, IC61508, 에이스파이스, ISO 21448 등과 같은 국제 표준을 준수하기 위한 템플릿을 제공하고 차세대 항공기, 공중장비, 항공과 방위 시스템 개발을 위한 DO178C, DO254 등 항공전자공학 표준 프로세스를 지원하고 있으며 마지막으로 제약산업의 스마트 제약 제조 및 바이오 신약 제품 개발 프로세스 표준인 GAMP R5의 요구사항을 지원하고 있습니다. 비즈니스 프로세스 관리 기능을 갖춘 워크플로우와 관련 기능을 통해 PLM과 ALM을 통합하고 라이프 사이클 전체에 걸쳐 프로세스를 연결하는 등 데이터의 일관성을 보장할 수 있습니다. 앞에서 제공된 동영상에서 보시는 바와 같이 PTC 코드비머는 제조산업 전반에 갖춘 표준 준수 템플릿을 제공하여 소프트웨어 제품 개발에 필요한 핵심 프로세스를 제공하며 고객들의 업무 지원을 향상시키고 있습니다. 그럼 다음으로 PTC 코드비머 UI, UX에 대해 간략하게 소개해 드리겠습니다. 업무 효율성 및 편의성을 위해 PTC 코드비머는 코드비머만의 직관적이고 현대적인 웹 UI, UX 기반 ALM 통합 솔루션 기능을 제공합니다. 보시는 바와 같이 사용자 업무에 따라 다양한 UI 위젯을 별도로 구성할 수 있으며 MS 오피스 제품인 엑셀, 워드, 또한 표준 요구사항 포맷인 RQIF 파일에 대한 입수 기능을 통해 스크럼 팀 내에 협업 및 업무 효율성을 극대화할 수 있는 애자일 개발 환경에 최적화된 UX 패턴을 제공합니다. 이상 PTC 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM 솔루션인 코드비머를 활용하여 어떻게 성공적인 소프트웨어 개발 협업을 구현했는지를 글로벌 제조 사례를 통해 소개했습니다. 다시 한번 PTC 코드비머의 특징에 대해 다음 동영상을 통해 정리해 보도록 하겠습니다. 동영상에서와 같이 PTC 코드비머는 요구사항 소스 코드까지의 추적, 지원 검토 및 감사, 도구 유효성 검사 패키지를 지원함으로써 품질 및 감사 가능성을 제공합니다. 설계 및 개발 시 기능 종단 간 추적성을 지원하고 프로젝트 제품 개발 전반의 위험을 관리할 수 있습니다. 또한 코드비머는 확장된 애자일 형태 지원과 연속된 통합 및 배포 기능을 지원하는 데브옵스 기능을 통해 2,500만 개 워크 아이템 확장성에 대한 엔터프라이즈 민첩성을 보장합니다. 코드비머는 모바일 웹 접근을 가능하게 하며 시각적 데이터 분석을 위한 대시보드 기능 지원, 품질 관리 시스템 통합 및 서드파티 툴 지원을 위한 코드비머만의 투명성과 적응성을 보장합니다. PTC 코드비머 ALM 솔루션은 안전규정 준수를 목표로 하는 제약, 항공전자, 자동차, 의료기기 제조 산업군에 필요한 템플릿 기능 지원을 통해 제품 개발 전반에 필요한 프로세스를 지원하고 다양한 업무 환경의 협업 업무를 지속적으로 관리해 줄 수 있는 PTC만의 엔터프라이즈 통합 ALM 솔루션입니다. 오늘 바쁘신 시간에도 저희 PTC PLM 버추얼 컨퍼런스 세션에 함께 해주셔서 감사하다는 말씀과 함께 제 세션을 마무리하도록 하겠습니다. 앞으로도 PTC ALM 솔루션인 코드비머에 대해 많은 관심을 부탁드립니다. 감사합니다.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies Roundtable. I'm joined today by Mike Campbell, EVP and General Manager of Augmented Reality, and by Catherine Kinneker, or CK, our EVP and Chief Strategy Officer here at PTC. We're here to discuss how companies like yours can and are leveraging their PLM data across the entire enterprise to improve the speed and quality of their operations. Now, before we dig into how PLM and AR can be used together, Mike, can you help us understand just the basics of AR?
Sure. I like to compare AR to augmented reality to virtual reality. In virtual reality, we immerse ourselves in a completely different place with a six-sided box and see digital content. With augmented reality, we're actually augmenting digital content in the context of the physical world where we often do work. This is especially relevant in the industrial enterprise, and PLM is a great source of that digital content that we would be leveraging in AR across a broad variety of use cases.
For sure, and there are a broad variety of use cases. If you look across the entire product value chain, from engineering, design reviews, to manufacturing, to sales and marketing, to customer operations and service, augmented reality is widely applicable across the value chain, which really doesn't happen very often when you think of a technology that has broad applicability and pretty much equal applicability across the value chain. PLM data really enhances that, the richness of the AR content that you can create.
Absolutely.
So we always say, if your product is at the center of value that you're delivering to your customers, there's lots and lots of data that you create in engineering that gets stored in PLM that can be used in all of these use cases. If you think about, engineering bills of materials and configured CAD models, PMI data, model-based design data, control characteristics, all of this data that we control in PLM and we manage version there can be used in these use cases. Can you talk a little bit about that, Mike?
Yeah, if you approach the question from an AR perspective, the very first question is, with what shall I augment reality? What is the source of content? And in the industrial enterprise, one of those answers, the top answer, is absolutely PLM data. And let's just double click into some of the use cases. If we think about in engineering, we want to do a design review. We want to make sure we've got exactly the right information so that we can visualize the design at scale relative to some other physical reference point around it. It's even more important further on downstream when we get into things like manufacturing. As you've maybe heard in the episode today, there's lots of applicability of AR in inspection use cases, in assembly use cases, lots of activities on the shop floor where it's absolutely critical that we have the right source of information, that it's the right revision, the right configuration. And if we do that, where we're being more efficient, we're minimizing scrap, we're minimizing rework, and we're driving product quality right up. And then the same is true further on downstream out in the field. If you're out servicing a piece of equipment, we have lots of customers that are challenged because they've got an incredibly broad portfolio, and they've recognized that leveraging AR can help them familiarize or guide the technician out in the field. But that's only valuable if the information is correct. So having that tie-in to PLM, that connectivity, being able to pull that digital thread is just hugely valuable.
And huge out in the field in service where you have the least amount of support. So to have that configuration data that's exact to that machine is enormously beneficial to a service tech who is out alone trying to service a machine, and it avoids truck rolls. Just the efficiencies that industrial companies or those that provide service to those devices is incredible.
I would just say that of course your point around applicability across the value chain is spot on. But the data would suggest, based on what our customers are actually doing today, that both service and manufacturing is where they're achieving a tremendous amount of value. To your point right there. And if you think about it, that's where the physical world and the digital world really collide head on, right? That's where I need the right, relevant digital information in the context of the work that I'm doing right now here in the physical world. So it's great. It's a great point.
So, there's lots of opportunities in engineering, but to your point, Mike, in manufacturing and in service. And even in service, even there's shortage of field technicians that even make it more important to be able to have really trustworthy work instructions kind of in real 3D versus the way it's done now. So all that being said, there's tons and tons of opportunity. Where do you start? How do you get started?
It's a little bit of the curse, right? Of this broad applicability is, you look at it and say, I can't do anything. I think the key activity is to go through an exercise and identify high-value use cases that are going to make a meaningful impact on your business that you are technologically ready to address. Now, in some cases, I imagine most of the audience here has a good PLM system and has a robust, let's say, collection of digital data to leverage. And then there's the question of technology readiness on the AR side, right? It's easy to imagine all of the things that AR can do. The good news is at PTC, we have a strong point of view on what AR actually can do, what it's technically ready to do today, and where we can drive meaningful value. So step number one is absolutely let's work together and get focused on a particular use case. The good news is at PTC, we've got a proven method for doing that through our value workshops. We go through discovery. We make sure that we're mapping that value to the technology and then go off and set our sights on a target and then fulfill the promise.
And I would say, just to add, completely agree with what Mike just said. COVID has accentuated employee shortage, and so therefore on-demand training, really training up and skilling up employees isn't just a once in a year activity, it's an ongoing activity. And so it has increased one of the use cases where this rich PLM data could be very useful. But I agree with Mike, look at your particular situation and figure out what's the highest value. And we can help you with what's the highest value, but and go from there.
Those are all really, really good points, but I'm wondering, are there any just characteristics of use cases that you should look at, versus specific examples? Just what characterizes a good use case that people should look for?
Yeah, it's a good point. The most valuable scenarios are cases when I would say there's variability. So that variability might be in the products that you're working on. A product with many options, variants, that's somewhere where AR can add a lot of value because it's providing the right information specific to the unique configuration that you're working on. Another element of variability is variability in the workforce, right? If you've got new people that are coming online all the time, we've talked with customers recently that have 40% turnover. So in addition to the challenges around COVID, there's the aging workforce, the retiring folks, all of those kinds of things. So when you have this element of variability in your workforce, they need to be educated, right? They need to be informed about what needs to be done for a particular version. So those are some characteristics that come to mind for me.
I would say, Kevin, there's probably one other, which is the high cost of failure. So whether that's a really expensive piece of equipment or in a process that is high cost if the process goes down. So those are two other things to look at to make sure they're really good places to find use cases because you probably have the opportunity to save a lot of time and money and be much more efficient in your overall process.
And these are not exclusive, right? I mean, we've got an example in our customer experience center in Boston where we have a highly configured product. It's an automotive engine, so there's variability in the design. And the use case that is being pursued is quality inspection, end-of-line inspection. Yep. So you can imagine being a QA inspector, you're getting engines off the line all day long. Every single one of them is different, which means every single one of them has different things to be inspected. And if that's not done correctly, or if you fall into the lull of just checking the 7 common things and not the 14 unique things, you've got a problem when that product goes out the door. So these characteristics can be used in isolation, or they can mix and match and add even more value.
For sure.
Lots of variability and high cost of failure.
Sure.
So, I mean, that feels like a pretty good place to stop. We talked a little bit about AR, but most importantly, what we wanted to discuss was just the value of PLM data in all these use cases enabled by AR. I think we got that done. So, Mike, CK, thanks a lot for joining me for the conversation.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be here.
Our pleasure.
And thank all of you for joining us for this conversation today. Greatly appreciate it.
countering climate disasters, energy independence. Every country, every city, and every company has had a strategy to deal with these issues for years. Still, progress has been slow. The reason is simple: cost. The world economy is built on cheap sources of power. But there's something in the wind. One of the companies innovating their way to cost parity is Vetas. Vetas, with more than 29,000 dedicated employees, has literally taken an electric and mechanical wind turbine and turned it into a highly tailorable, software-controlled, connected powerhouse of clean and affordable energy. In January of 2022, Vetas was also named the most sustainable company in the world, a testament to both their existing achievements and their ongoing progress in ensuring sustainability in everything they do. To date, they've installed turbines in 86 countries and thousands of offshore locations, producing enough energy to power over 100 million homes. I spoke with 3 digital transformation leaders from Vetas to uncover how they can design, manufacture, transport, assemble, operate, and service these incredibly complex and enormous machines as they work towards a more sustainable future for generations to come.
First of all, let's say the motivation is high. When you work for a company which is going to deliver green energy solutions, a link to improving the climate, and you know you're doing something good, which we always had, but over the last year you can see how important it is. That's a motivation factor, which is good. On the other hand, it means we need to grow, and we need to grow fast. And then that means also you need to optimize everything what you're doing. We are looking, the product is a plant now. Is a site. So and that can be a hybrid plant where you don't just have your wind turbines. You also can have storage. You can have solar. You can have hydrogen as a mixture. Right. It's about providing power solutions or energy, green energy, to the customers, and that is a huge change as well.
Andreas shared his view of PLM's place with an expanding and increasingly complex enterprise application architecture. Tell us a little bit about that journey. You know, where you started in terms of digital transformation, digital thread, where you are today.
We had already a strong connection to PTC, so on the PLM system we have decided to go with PTC products, Windchill and so forth. We have one MES, which makes it simple from the system side. We want to have one source of truth, as the way we define it is both the everything is modeled in 3D. Then we go into our PTC Windchill environment, so we're talking about the EBOM, the MBOM, the process plans derived, and then from that derived we have our digital work instructions. That's what we call the one source of truth. We deliver the right material, the right BOM, the right process plans, and we ensure we have the right execution. That means we have the right quality when we leave a factory or when we install a turbine. So we are very much focusing on how do we achieve the digital thread. We are moving, you could say, the value stream, the value chain stakeholders upstream towards the design. We can do that because people can, at their workplaces, actually do a review of a new solution because it's 3D.
Building a digital foundation also includes establishing a connected product program. The data stream from IoT implementations is a strategic asset that provides value across the extended value chain, both internal to the company and to customers and suppliers. How does IoT connected data play into the digital thread? Is it a key component of the digital thread, or?
The digital thread and is somehow the foundation for any IoT application. And the IoT is the way we look at it, is supporting. For example, when we talk about IoT tools, and we also talk about AR, VR training. It could also be some, components talking to each other. Hey, I'm running out of performance here. I need to be exchanged, whatever, and all this one. But when it goes down to that you have the right information to do that, and without a digital thread, without making sure that you keep that alive, and it goes back to the one source of truth, which you keep updated.
Design and specification information that companies work so hard to generate and curate become static artifacts without feedback from their use. I talk next to Lasse Nowak to better understand how engineering leverages IoT to verify operational performance and set priorities for engineering efforts.
We have performance data, and as part of the development of any given project or new product that we do, we always do a verification of some of the simulation models, especially those parts of the simulation models that we call the aeroelastic simulations, which is modeling the overall turbine behavior. But it's also looking at data from failures. And the idea is, of course, that once we have a much more connected simulation setup, that we can then use the data even more with the purpose of validating our models. So if you want to have quality first, what you really mean is that you want to move the mistakes that are inevitable in any type of engineering organization into the digital domain, where it's very cheap to make the mistakes. Because if you want to try out new things, if you want to be daring in terms of exploring new design concepts, you have to accept that you make mistakes. There's something you have overlooked. But as long as you can make the mistakes in the digital domain and not when they're sitting out in the turbines, that's of course what you want to do. Therein lies the need for having traceable data and connecting the data that we measure on site from the turbines that are connected, and then have that linked back to our simulation models, and again back to our part structure, so that we can see exactly what products with which parts failed based on which data, and how do we then correct our simulations, whether it's simulations for, let's say, structural integrity, or simulations that prove how to assemble or disassemble a design, which could be another type of failure mode.
Information silos and competing or overlapping improvement initiatives create complexity. This complexity, combined with the sheer number of people, also creates a fog. Collaboration has enabled engineering to increase efficiency and help reduce costs.
Because our motto is to disrupt the project triangle, in the sense that we want to build everything that we do based on the idea that you don't have to necessarily sacrifice quality to get better cost or things develop faster, or vice versa. It is definitely possible through the right combination of simulation, automation, and digitalization to achieve all three at the same time, if you can find smart ways of using all of the above. A lot of the day-to-day challenges that the engineers have are not necessarily complex ones. They're complex in the sense that they spread across multiple disciplines and across the value chain, such as if you want to have correct configuration, you also need to solve the matters of how you handle your bills of materials. And that's why we have been working with PTC on implementing some of the solutions that allow us to basically create an engineering BOM that focuses on creating the digital twin and you could say the final state of the product.
Breaking down the data silos created by traditional engineering can be challenging. A waterfall approach is slow, expensive, and prevents necessary feedback. Keeping engineering and manufacturing in sync is critical to yield quality products and save time.
Before we get to the manufacturing bill of material, we have, of course, the engineering bill of material.
Yep.
And we have this rules set that throughout the various manufacturing or value chain bill of material views that we have throughout the value chain, the engineering bill of material must always be represented 100%. So you can't take anything out. You can reorganize it however you want. So if you want to have a sub-assembly of a part of the design because this is how you prefer to put the turbine together as a whole, you can do that. Let's say certain parts of the design doesn't necessarily need to arrive at the plant, but it only shows up in, you could say, on the construction sites, on actual wind turbine sites. We're leveraging kit sets. It's in our SAP system. So we are capable of handling both the individual needs of the various parts of the value chain, but also to handle logistics. And of course, we do all of this in order to enable, you could say, advanced planning operations or APOs, such that we can better utilize our capabilities and our stock in our factories and the various parts of the value chain. This really has to do with solving the basics. And once we have that foundation in place, it really opens up for the engineers to be truly creative.
You have all of these, somewhat unique turbines that have been designed for customers. How do you take a platform-based approach to your configurations and modules?
We have something that we define as our products, and those products also come in different mark versions, as we call it, so that they just are the natural evolution of our products over time, and then we have configuration that allows us to configure those products. But where we also need to know that we need to improve is we need to be able to handle a much greater degree of variance in the future. And we also want to not just consider variance as something that is limited to the sales aspect of configuration. We want to have a setup where the configuration choices that we make based on the options that we allow the customers to choose from cascades all the way through our sales configurator down to our engineering bill of material, or it's really down to our value chain bills of material, so that we configure, based on those choices, what should the manufacturing bill of material look like, what should be the transport bill of material, construction bill of material, and of course also service bill of material, so that you would know exactly what you're dealing with based on configuration. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we would also like to extend that even further so that we can, you could say, have something that is, or products that are even more tailor-made to our customers' needs. The projects that we develop together with our customers are growing in size.
A sustainable engineering strategy is key to making better design decisions in support of the company's overall sustainability goals. When designing a product, engineers should take into account the environmental impact of the processes and the materials used to create the product. Green designs allow for greater recyclability, easier disassembly to aid in the reuse of components, and reduce consumption of raw materials.
That starts with, you could say, creating a digital representation of all of our base materials and connecting it to our various design tools, including our PLM system, which is what we have done this year. And also connecting the same data object to our raw materials, our parts, so that we have one source of truth in this regard. And now that we have most of that in place, we can then also start to take the next step of controlling those base materials. Needless to say, a large portion of the designs that we have in our turbines are not made by Vetas. We source them from our sub-suppliers, of course. And that creates some new challenges in terms of figuring out, if we have a large assembly as opposed to a part, how do we then keep track of what materials went into the making of those parts and those assemblies? And it creates some new challenges as opposed to when we have a complete bill of material where we can add all the data objects to ourselves. But it's fundamentally somewhat of the same problem.
Keeping pace with the change in technology and software complexity is impossible without digital transformation. Troels Fleckenstein is responsible for IT and value chain solutions at Vetas. His focus is on users, communities, and value flow, ensuring alignment with Vestas' long-term strategy.
What's the role of PLM as part of that?
PLM is very much driven out of our engineering department, so we have a very, very strong PLM practice within engineering, and we have gotten a long way to structure the way we engineer and plan for our product with a 30-year lifetime. So therefore, the whole PLM structure comes natural to us. I think one of the challenges with PLM is also that our industry is reinventing itself quite frequently. So having the stamina to really work through and having a PLM structure that carries through all of our different systems is a challenge. We have now come a very long way because we can start both simulating, both from a cost and performance point of view, but also we can see that we can start to automate the work of the people. So having P2C as sort of an anchor point and a source system for our PLM, and then connecting that with standard connectors into our operations and financial ERP system, and the core that we operate upon is really an essence for us to drive PLM.
Leveraging the digital thread and the digital twin to solve challenges frees up time to innovate. And efficient engineering means a change in the way of working. I came back to Andreas to learn more.
It works. It works for me, right, in where I am. And if I need to change, it seems that I need to do more. And then you say, oh yeah, but in a total context, we reduce the lead time by half and the effort by half. Yeah, but I need to do more, right? And that requires, of course, then we're back to change management. It requires you share the vision, you talk about the why, you speak to the end-to-end, to a holistic picture, and so forth and so forth. And what we needed, what helped us is we had our proof of concepts. So what we said, hey, we think we can reduce the lead time, we can reduce the effort, blah, 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 and the cost. So we did that on specific blade projects. And we have been proven that we were right.
It works, yeah.
And then you don't need to discuss it anymore. Done, right? And that makes it much more easier to, instead of talking to the big vision and making a big business case no one ever is going to understand, it's always, you can't defeat such a business case because it's future. So we said, how can we combine a long-term vision with short-term needs? And so say from the vision and what we want to do perspective, we think long-term. When it comes to value capture, we think short-term. And we use that, what we do, as proof points so that we can continue our journey. Get more funding for the digital roadmap and so forth. That's how we did it.
For Vestas, the digital thread starts in engineering, where they have created an authoritative source of truth, a true product lifecycle management that provides enterprise governance and traceability. They are now on a journey to a unified flow of product and process information. Along the way, they are helping us all achieve a more sustainable future.
안녕하세요. 저는 PTC에서 PLM 솔루션 컨설턴트로서 여러분에게 PTC PLM의 가치를 전달하고 도와드리는 역할을 하고 있습니다. 오늘은 모듈러 플랫폼의 잠재력을 최대한 활용하여 엔지니어링 및 제조에서 부가가치를 높이는 동시에 기업에 대한 액세스를 간소화하는 방법에 대해서 간단히 자세히 알아보도록 하겠습니다. 기업은 고객과 시장의 요구를 충족하기 위해 다양한 생산 전략을 가지고 있으며 다양한 제품군과 오퍼링에 걸쳐 하나 이상의 전략을 사용하는 경우가 많습니다. 그래서 생산 전략은 광범위한 요구사항을 충족하도록 확장할 수 있습니다. Assemble to Stock 및 Assemble to Order는 고전된 특성을 갖는 제품 기능을 지원하며 대량 사전 계획 및 주문 생산을 할 수 있습니다. Configure to Order는 그 위에 좀 더 확장된 다양한 기능을 추가하는 반면 Engineering to Order는 ATO 또는 CTO에서 시작하여 좀 더 커스텀된 주문형 생산 방식을 제공할 수 있습니다. 플랫폼 모듈 기능을 도입하면 조직은 제품의 다양성을 제공하면서 표준화를 통해 제품 및 프로세스 품질을 개선할 수 있습니다. 윈칠 플랫폼 기능은 강력한 구성 가능한 제품 솔루션을 생성, 관리 및 제공하기 위한 기반을 제공합니다. 그럼 윈칠이 제품 설계 사이클을 통해 플랫폼 모듈화를 제공하는 방법을 알아보겠습니다. 강력한 바텀업 및 탑다운 기능뿐만 아니라 제품군을 계획하는 동안 모듈식 제품 플랫폼을 생성하고 관리하여 BOM, CAD 및 시각화를 제공할 수 있습니다. 그런 다음 제조에서 이 기반을 활용하여 계획을 조정하면서 엔지니어링과의 초기 협업을 촉진할 수 있습니다. 플랫폼 모듈화를 통해 설계를 대규모로 검증하고 전사적 변경 거버넌스를 통해 성숙도를 관리할 수 있습니다. 플랫폼 구성의 시각 정보와 AR은 전사적으로 사용 가능하며 광범위한 요구사항에 맞출 수 있으며 서비스 계획 부분에서도 규모에 따른 정확한 지침 및 부품 정보를 제공하는 혜택을 누릴 수 있습니다. 윈칠 플랫폼 기능의 핵심 요소를 살펴보겠습니다. 플랫폼 아키텍처는 재사용을 유도하기 위해 물리적 및 기능적 아키텍처를 나타내는 계층적 구조를 제공합니다. 이 구조는 설계가 성숙해지는 과정에 맞춰 탑다운으로 구축하고 바텀업으로 모듈을 표준화하여 채워나갈 수 있습니다. 모듈은 재사용 가능한 빌딩 블록으로 플랫폼 아키텍처를 표준화된 방식으로 채워줍니다. 이러한 핵심 부분이 공통 플랫폼에서 다양한 파생 설계를 허용하기 위한 세부 설계가 수행되는 부분입니다. 컨트롤은 어느 모듈이 특정 구성 사양에 속하는지 선택하는 데 사용되는 논리입니다. 이는 마케팅 및 기술 기능뿐만 아니라 마켓 오퍼링 추진에 사용되는 규칙을 나타냅니다. 그리고 컨피규레이션을 사용하여 플랫폼 설계를 검증하고 계획된 오퍼링 및 특정 고객 주문 또는 특정 사양을 나타낼 수 있으며 각 사양 내에는 EBOM, MBOM, CAD 및 시각화 정보가 포함될 수 있습니다. 이런 요소를 통해 팀은 윈칠의 강력한 변경 관리를 사용하여 플랫폼 성숙도를 관리하면서 동시에 설계를 계획하고 검증할 수 있습니다. 플랫폼 구조를 사용하면 구성 가능한 모듈러 구조를 기반으로 제품 오퍼링을 계획하고 제공할 수 있습니다. 구성 가능한 모듈러 구조를 필터링하여 사용자는 다운스트림에게 사용할 수 있는 플랫폼 솔루션을 설계하고 검증할 수 있습니다. 일반적으로 많은 제품군에서 모듈의 포지션이나 위치는 거의 또는 전혀 변경되지 않으며 기업은 기업 전체의 사용자에게 플랫폼 솔루션을 통해 제품 시각화 및 BOM을 신속하게 제공할 수 있습니다. 그런데 만약 플랫폼 로직에 따라 모듈 위치를 변경해야 하는 더 큰 요구사항이 있는 경우 어떻게 해야 할까요? 제품 다양성의 양과 모듈의 가능한 위치가 엄청난 숫자로 증가함에 따라 가상 설계 효율성 문제가 빠르게 증가하고 있습니다. 구성을 설계, 확인 및 검증하려면 설계자와 엔지니어가 필요한 모든 위치에 수동으로 모듈을 추가해야 합니다. 그런 다음 새로 배치한 모듈이 종속되는 모듈을 추가하는 등과 같은 복잡하고 시간 소모적인 작업이 발생합니다. 규모가 커지면 이는 불가능해지고 논리 조건의 작은 하위 집합에 대해서만 설계하고 검증하게 됩니다. 보다 넓은 범위인 제품의 팀은 구성에 대한 제한적 액세스만 가지고 있거나 엔지니어링에서 수동으로 생성한 결과물을 요청해야 합니다. 결과적으로 효율성 및 시간이 손실되고 그리고 제품 문제의 리스크가 더 커집니다. 이 가상 설계 효율성 과제를 어떻게 해결할 수 있을까요? 윈칠 12.0.2와 함께 스마트 플랫폼을 소개드립니다. 스마트 플랫폼은 당사의 글로벌 플랫폼에 대한 최신 업데이트며 여기에는 다이나믹 포지셔닝이 포함됩니다. 다이나믹 포지셔닝은 플랫폼에 과부하를 주거나 매번 CAD로 돌아갈 필요 없이 로직을 기반으로 모듈을 올바른 위치에 자동으로 배치할 수 있습니다. 엔지니어와 디자이너는 제품 플랫폼의 전체 범위를 설계, 시각화 및 검증할 수 있습니다. 제품팀은 설계 환경으로 돌아가지 않고도 필요한 구성에 대한 시각화에 액세스할 수 있습니다. 스마트 플랫폼은 모듈화 전략을 한 단계 더 업그레이드 시켜줍니다. 스마트 플랫폼은 모듈식 요소 위에 구축되어 올바른 위치에 파생 사양을 구성 및 시각화합니다. 스마트 플랫폼은 윈칠의 강력한 모듈화 개념을 확장하여 동적 위치 지정을 지원합니다. 플랫폼 아키텍처는 설계 및 인터페이스의 의도를 캡처합니다. 컨트롤은 모듈을 선택할 뿐만 아니라 배치할 위치를 결정합니다. 모듈은 시각화에서의 위치를 결정하는 인터페이스 개념을 추가합니다. 그런 다음 컨피규레이션에서 이러한 향상된 기능을 활용하여 팀이 향상된 효율성을 훨씬 더 광범위한 제품 오퍼링에서 쉽게 액세스하고 설계하고 검증할 수 있습니다. 스마트 플랫폼의 효율성을 여는 첫 번째 열쇠는 포지셔닝 아키텍처를 통한 것입니다. 이 새로운 개념으로 BOM 구조와 병렬로 작동하여 제품 전체에 걸쳐 요소를 배치할 수 있는 방법을 정의합니다. 아키텍처에는 세 가지 요소가 있습니다. Configurable Load는 교환 가능한 요소와 위치가 발생할 수 있는 곳을 정합니다. 인터페이스는 두 개의 파생 모듈에서 위치 지정 관계가 발생하는 곳을 정의합니다. 인터페이스 내에서 로케이터는 사용 가능한 위치를 나타냅니다. 모듈을 배치할 수 있는 많은 위치를 나타내는 여러 로케이터가 정의될 수 있습니다. 포지셔닝 아키텍처가 정의되면 이제 모듈의 위치 또는 로케이터를 관리할 차례입니다. 각 모듈은 하나에서 여러 개의 정의된 로케이터를 가지고 있을 수 있으며 시각화를 기반으로 로케이터를 배치할 위치를 결정합니다. 로케이터는 크레오에서 좌표계 시스템을 이용하여 모듈 내에 만들어지고 이것은 윈칠로 전달됩니다. 이제 스마트 플랫폼 활성화로 넘어가 제품 아키텍처로부터 시작하겠습니다. 제품 아키텍처는 다양한 구성 가능 모듈 간의 관계를 정의합니다. 인터페이스는 아키텍처의 구성 가능한 모듈을 연결하고 로케이터를 사용하여 사용 가능한 특정 위치를 결정합니다. 사용자는 드래그 앤 드랍 기능을 사용하여 구성 가능한 모듈을 배치하고 구조를 레이아웃함으로써 제품 아키텍처를 쉽게 관리할 수 있습니다. 한 구성 가능한 모듈에서 다른 구성 가능한 모듈로 드래깅하는 간단한 방법으로 인터페이스를 생성할 수 있습니다. 일단 로케이터가 생성되면 사용자는 사용할 적절한 로케이터를 선택하고 해당 위치의 사용을 위한 논리를 할당할 수 있습니다. 다음 단계는 모듈이 다른 모듈에 서로 상대적으로 배치되는 위치를 결정하는 로케이터를 선택하는 것입니다. 각 모듈은 위치 지정 시 해당 모듈의 위치를 정하기 위한 다양한 방법을 정의하는 여러 개의 로케이터를 가질 수 있습니다. CAD 좌표 시스템에서 나오는 올바른 로케이터를 선택하는 작업은 그래픽 환경에서 쉽게 수행할 수 있습니다. 이러한 기능이 다양한 제품 구성에 어떻게 결합되는지 살펴보겠습니다. 이 첫 번째 예에서는 옵션을 선택하고 제품 구조 브라우저에서 올바르게 배치된 업데이트된 구성을 볼 것입니다. 그런 다음 저장된 필터 또는 파생 사양 정보를 사용하여 다른 구성으로 쉽게 전환합니다. 선택한 옵션에 따라 올바른 BOM과 3D 시각화 정보를 모두 사용할 수 있습니다. 포지셔닝 아키텍처 및 로케이터를 기반으로 하면 사용자는 특정 구성에 액세스하기 위해 엔지니어링에 수동으로 요청할 필요 없이 원하는 구성에 쉽게 액세스할 수 있습니다. 설계자와 엔지니어는 보다 광범위한 제품을 설계하고 검증할 수 있습니다. 윈칠에서 시작하여 사용자는 특정 구성을 선택하고 올바르게 배치된 솔루션을 크레오 또는 크레오 뷰로 가져와 설계 작업을 수행할 수 있습니다. 팀 구성원이 필요한 BOM 및 3D 시각화 정보를 신속하게 얻을 수 있을 때 조직 내 효율성을 극대화됩니다. 모듈러 플랫폼을 만들고 제공하면 큰 이점을 얻을 수 있습니다. 스마트 플랫폼은 이러한 이점을 한 차원 높여 설계 효율성 과제를 해결합니다. 이제 설계자와 엔지니어는 설계하고 검증하는데 몇 주, 몇 달이 걸리던 작업을 며칠, 몇 시간 안에 완수할 수 있습니다. 제품팀은 이제 기업 전체에서 활용하기 위해 올바른 위치, 구성에 쉽게 액세스할 수 있습니다. 이 세션에서는 윈칠 스마트 플랫폼이 디지털 스레드 전반에 걸쳐 사용자를 위해 효율성을 단계적으로 변화시키는 방법을 소개했습니다. 시청해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies Roundtable. I'm joined today by Abby Eon, SVP and General Manager of our Kepware business, and by Howard Heppelman, DVP and GM of our ThingWorx IoT solutions. We're here to discuss how companies like yours can and are connecting their products and operations to close the loop of product lifecycle, drive more efficiency, and improve quality. Abby, Howard, thanks for being here. Let's just get started with, how does PTC think about IoT? Howard, let's start with you.
Yeah. Well, I think, the industry in general has for a long time connected to IT systems, or you've connected to equipment in the factory. The real opportunity here is the bridging or the convergence, as is popularly known in the industry, IT-OT convergence, of bringing that data together and then creating a context of that data that can be used to unlock new business processes, draw new insights, et cetera. So that's really, what we're talking about when we're talking about IoT is how do you bring information technology, equipment or operational technology together in the realm of the user to give them new capabilities, new insights, to enable new processes and transform businesses.
Both for, let's say, factory and for things out in the field, service, both.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think traditionally when we think about operational data like Howard is talking about, there's a lot of, let's say, a disconnect between how the IT folks and the OT folks are thinking about that data, and almost all of it is siloed to some fashion. So we're thinking about companies trying to build this management process configuration, and we have data that's on the ERP, maybe PLM, CRM that's not connected. And similarly in the factory, we have a bunch of production systems. So getting those teams to understand that data in those silos and bringing them together is where a lot of power in IoT is.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting. It's I think you both know at one point we used to say, hey, Windchill is the single source of truth for all product data. And I think what you're saying is, hey, maybe not so fast, meaning there's important data in MES systems and factory systems, in ERP systems, and other data silos that exist in the whole enterprise. So yeah, it's interesting. So let's move to the next, because our audience is, it's PLM customers. And so let's just talk about the forward flow of PLM data, that richness of PLM data that's trustworthy, and its use in IoT use cases. Howard, let's start again with you.
Yeah. Well, I think, if you look at great customers of ours like Vetas, for example, who's been featured, and you think about, they're starting with managing that single source of truth around the product data. But quickly what they realize is there are opportunities to extend that data, to extend it into manufacturing, to extend it into service. So one of the very first things that they start looking at is how do we take that engineering bill of material and repurpose it so that it looks like how we're going to build those products on the shop floor. Then how do we take that bill of material and plan all the operational steps, the process, the routings, the tools and resources, skills, the cycle times that we expect it to take, and then deliver that content down to the shop floor. So there's a very logical transformation that happens, which digitally threads the engineering function and the products that will be built to the factory floor where those products will be built. And then it's about how do you use technologies like IoT in a work center to combine that equipment data and that product data,
Right.
and enable the operators to, quite frankly, be far more efficient in executing configuration-specific builds on the factory floor. On service, it's very much the same kind of path, except instead of transforming the engineering bill of material into a manufacturing bill of material, we're now thinking about how are we going to service that product? What is the serviceable bill of material? And so we're bifurcating the bill of material down to a view of what that looks like in service. But the same steps basically exist. Then how are we going to lay out what the service work instructions would be, how long that process should take, what steps an operator is going to go through, and then ultimately deliver that information out to the technician on the front line who's trying to get a piece of equipment restored as fastly as possible to minimize, any unplanned downtime.
And I think a lot of that, when we think about automation and how that's tying in, so some level of automation in the processes, because a lot of these things have been on paper and have been manual. But as we bring this out and think more about how we can automate even the production, because now we have more insight into how we're setting up that operation, we're able to bring more data in. So another example of where we are bringing in IoT data to start getting input and then feeding data back.
Yeah. So just to maybe add and ask you both a question is, part of it is, of course, as you talked about, Howard, the forward flow of data, instructions and parts lists and things like that. If you think about a maintenance scenario in the factory or the service scenario in the field, kind of understanding the condition of that piece of equipment is also pretty important, in the moment and in the lead up to that. Can you talk about IoT data from that perspective?
Yeah, let's talk about the field for a second. Obviously, when you connect the equipment with the data, and especially over time, you're going to get much better insights about what specific pattern is occurring with that equipment in the field and what are the fixes that need to be deployed to restore that equipment. The same is absolutely true in the factory. When we deliver that information down and we connect it to the operational environment in the factory every day, we can start to harvest the analytics and insights around the equipment to drive better responses and better fixes.
I think when you think about operational data, with a company like Vetas is a good example. They're manufacturing product that is out in the field, and that historically, utilities, power, those are places where they do actually gather a lot of operational data. It's really thinking about the new use cases. Where do you leverage that data for new use cases and be able to do even more than you had before?
Yeah, actually, so speaking of that, now we were talking about the forward flow of data. Now let's talk about the return trip. If we think about closed loop, we talked about the forward view, and now let's talk about the return view and the use that we can get from IoT data, back in engineering, let's say. Howard, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think this is actually probably the most exciting part about it, because what we're talking about here is not just the delivery of that information, but as we all know, whether it's in the field or in the factory, there are always going to be there's a context to what's happening in that environment. And so if we focus on the factory, for example, we've planned what the factory should look like to build the product. We've designed the process, essentially the digital twin of what we expect that process to look like. And now people are showing up every day in the factory and trying to do that work. And guess what? It doesn't always go exactly as we planned. The beauty of the return trip is that it closes the loop on that. And so now we understand we expected this particular action to take the operator 2 minutes to do. That action always takes 3 minutes to do. Maybe we need to think about how we redesign the process element of that. Or this other particular operation, when using this type of equipment, always has a quality issue. Now we can bring that data back and either think about redesigning the process or maybe redesigning the product itself. That closed loop capability is super important to be able to drive a culture and system for constant and continuous improvement.
And if you extend that really into those service use cases and you have that digital twin, when you think about it, like that's linking ideally your engineering data, how you've built your BOM, how it's been manufactured, and now it's in the field, and now you're getting feedback from when it's operational in the field that's going to inform not only service decisions, but all the way back to engineering and those products.
Yeah, and if I just might add to that, in the field, I think one of the really critical things here is, again, delivering configuration-specific data to make, whether it's the dealer, whether it's the customer doing self-service, or whether it's the Vetas team, for example, in their service organization repairing that equipment. How do you make sure that the context the operator is in is precise to whatever configuration of the product? That has to come, it starts right up front in PLM. But then again, looking at how is it the work that they're performing and where are the opportunities to get better, to constantly drive better service, to get the failure data from the field, to better engineer that next generation of products. So closing the loop, whether it's in the factory or in the field, as Abby said, is really critical to driving sort of a step change in performance.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is all of our thinking, and there's lots of possibilities. Of course, PTC is a solutions company, not necessarily a toolkit company. And so let's just talk about our IoT solution strategy. Clearly, there's been sessions on Navigate, and that's kind of the engineering piece of it. But Howard, can you just talk more about the things we're doing in the factory and the field?
Yeah, and let me do it, though, through the lens that we were just talking about. If we think of a closed-loop digital thread that starts in engineering, makes its way to the factory floor, and then brings data back again, what's in the portfolio that does that? Well, clearly, you've got Creo and Windchill, and you've got MPM Link, which is used to essentially transform the bill of material and create that a desired digital twin of the operations. But then we're making that handoff into the ThingWorx solutions like Connected Work Cell, which is the vehicle for delivering that content on the shop floor to the operators, but we don't stop there. Connected Work Cell is looking at also how does the process itself unfold for the operator. So we're gathering all those metrics that were designed in MPM Link. We're now saying what's actually happening on the shop floor. Yeah. And then we're able to feed that data into the cornerstone of our factory solution, which is digital performance management, to look at, are those kinds of problems the one that are showing up most frequently that are actually constraining the overall throughput of the factory? So by designing the performance, executing it, measuring it, feeding it into an engine that helps you understand where does it rank in terms of the overall priorities, we can actually create a closed loop to the digital twin of the process by measuring the actual performance of the factory and get the organization focused on what are the principal and top opportunities to drive financial impact.
Yeah.
Again, same scenario plays out in the field. Started in Windchill, Creo, Windchill. This time again, we're creating that service bill of material. We're creating the work instructions and tools like ArborText and to deliver those. And then we're again measuring it through the Connected Work Cell type application in the factory to monitor and measure and bring that same data back to continuously drive improvement in the overall process.
I think what's really key too on the solutions note is, like Howard said, starting with that business value, because when we start thinking about digitization and democratizing data, there's no shortage of data you can start collecting. So I think a lot of companies start to get into trouble because they have a bunch of data and they're building out twins and they're building out these enterprise architectures for data. And if you're not thinking about the problems you're trying to solve and what's the highest value, like that is just a critical place where we see failure and we see things being stalled.
Yeah, and if I could add to that again, I think if you step back 50,000 feet, and now let's talk about the service example or the field example for a second. Why is PLM data so important to companies like Vetas and many others? And what it really boils down to is we all know that value is shifting from mechanical to software and increasingly from sort of on-premise systems to the cloud. And what having that digital thread unveils is strategic opportunities for customers through capabilities like digital product platforms. We're all familiar with the success that Tesla is having. You pull your car into the garage at night, you plug it in, and not only does it charge, but when you wake up in the morning, it probably has new capabilities in it that you didn't have. This idea of creating digital product platforms that make their way into the field, but are tethered back to the actual configuration, the embedded software, all those capabilities that we can now update, unlocks an entirely new way for our customers to think about how they're designing their products. Maybe most of the engineering is actually done after the platform is put into the market, for example.
Yeah.
And none of that can be done if you don't have the configuration-specific context that started up front in engineering.
I agree. It's interesting. A whole nother topic on kind of design for connectivity, for connected service, or connected manufacturing, or connected customer support. So a lot there. So let's reel back a little bit and just say, okay, if you were to give someone some advice, how do you get started?
I think foundationally, it is a data foundation. I mean, you hear it a lot on digitalization, like I mentioned, like with EOP and PLM systems and CRM. But then in the operational space, you need to do the same thing, and that's been tricky because factories are largely heterogeneous. Either in a site or across an enterprise, everything is a little different. So you need to start collecting that data, but you also need to realize that even though things vary from site to site or even line to line, you need to level some, consistency where you can abstract the complexity and create these cleaner models that you may not have your single source of truth, but you want to build that up in easy ways for, IT and other users to access to be able to build these solutions on top of it.
Yeah, and I think in the area of data, a very logical place is to get that OT data under control. And Kevin, I've heard you say many times, actually, sort of the IT side of that is get your digital product house in order, right? So, I mean, those are kind of foundational elements. But in terms of where folks can start, I think once you have that foundational concept in place, in manufacturing, it's really simple. Use the MPM link capabilities to purposefully extend that engineering content down to the factory floor, and then use technologies like CWC and DPM as the way to deliver, measure, and enable that closed loop process. In the field, it's very similar to that. Again, start with getting your digital product suited to enable configuration-specific product views in the field, but then leveraging capabilities like ThingWorx to do connected product management or product intelligence, where everybody can see, whether you're in engineering or you're service tech in the field, what the status of those products are. And these are basic capabilities in ThingWorx on the IoT side, but then leveraging PLM and Creo up in the design side of the house.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a bit, what I'm hearing is like create a closed loop mindset to say, okay, great, you have your PLM data, let's use that, get into the factory and into the field, and then let's close the loop with important data coming back from the product in the field or coming back from factory operations that may affect the product design or certainly the process design. So I think that's a good spot for us to wrap it up. So we talked a little bit about IoT, PTC's view of PLM's importance in IoT use cases and IoT data, importance in product design and in engineering. Talked a little bit about solutions, and we talked about how to get started. So thank you, Howard, and thank you, Abby, for joining me for this conversation today. That was really good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great.
Great to chat.
Thanks.
And thanks to everyone for joining us for this roundtable. Appreciate it.
Business is speeding up. The cadence is higher in every industry, and there are many external pressures coming from the customer, but also internal pressures changing the way you are working. This places a high focus on your PLM strategy. The supply shortages we all see in the market have also had an immense impact on business. Companies cannot wait years for parts to be available in the required quantities. They need to rapidly redesign and validate systems to work with available components. Companies that can do this will gain market share from those that cannot. Executing rapid design changes while maintaining the highest level of quality requires an end-to-end transformation of how products are conceptualized, designed, built, and brought to market. How can you develop and produce faster, adapting to the needed speed of the business? I sat down with Olaf Kramer of Bosch, who's been instrumental in driving digitalization from a central department point of view. While Bosch is a well-known brand name, you might not realize just how large they are. With over 400,000 employees, 73,000 associates working in R&D at 129 locations worldwide, Bosch operates in 4 sectors: mobility, industrial technology, energy and building technology, and consumer goods. Addressing the challenges of collaboration, closed-loop quality, and concurrent engineering starts with building a strong PLM foundation for the digital thread.
When we are talking about the holistic PLM, there is not just one solution that fits all of it. So keeping this diversity in mind, and also keeping the view from a central department, the question to ask is, what can you do within the different target architectures that we find in the different business areas for PLM? And we identified, let's say, missing or weak elements in the architecture. And also we cross-checked between let's say the business segments in order to find out, hey, do we find, for example, one capability that is required in the different areas? We are not delivering from the central department point of view a fixed and ready solution, but we deliver building blocks and guidelines how to efficiently use those building blocks in order to create scalable and modular approaches.
You're creating a digital product definition, as I understand it, but it's not a single digital product definition. It's basically a fit for use. So depending on the various businesses, you then decide on the product architecture and what should be common and what can be shared from that business unit with the goal of reuse.
We want to add models in parallel to the documents in order that, for example, the models are machine readable so that we can connect working steps on that data. And that is one of the procedures how to do this, how to create those models. You always have to imagine this brownfield environment that we have.
As Bosch gets their proverbial digital house in order, Olaf has been focused on both improving the everyday life of an engineer and the strategic digital transformation of the enterprise.
Although we are working on this now for more than 4 years, I would still say regarding our capability to deliver data, to talk in models, we're still at the very beginning. So probably we, don't know, have maybe 5% of data shaped in models and where we really are close to something that could be described as a target state. But from the actual status, I would say we did a lot of the basic work of the homework. We created, let's say, the essential building blocks that we need. But now we have to get it into the practice. And that's what we're doing in terms of pilot project areas. For example, one of our business units, Power Tools, where we are introducing the mechanical or digital master. We are combining this with the so-called functional view, so that means we were taking the functions out of the model that we used in systems engineering, and we see, for example, the function and elements connected to the function later on, procedure steps like the FMEA in quality assurance and so on.
It sounds like your approach is try it out with a division and then see with a business put it into practice, so into production, and then see how you can scale it.
Yeah, we can scale it. In parallel to these activities, there are a number of other business units doing the same with their designs, for example, with their platforms as a kind of fast follower internal. So, and we are exchanging. So that's also one of the characteristics working in networks and establishing networks. That's part of the things that we can do out of a central department's point of view. So encourage those people to exchange together in those networks and exchange information and lessons learned. Electronic circuit board production. You have those SMT automates that do the component placement on the circuit boards. And there was a correlation regarding the yield and or a failure picture that we had with respect to the design. And what we used the, let's say, digital model-based representation of the circuit design and the failure feedback that we got from the production line in order to create a correlation and learn that this kind of limitations were only affected by specific design elements.
Collaboration is key. Engineering must hand off product-related information to other departments that need that information. Configuration management enables an organization to collaborate around a product's parts with one data set for the product. How about cross-discipline collaboration? How about with the electronics, with the software, with simulations, with all of that?
One essential capability we're working on is internally called cross-disciplinary configuration management, which is exactly what we are describing. So the capability to create baselines, not only within one system across disciplines, but also within different layers of a system of systems. And therefore, there is a very close coupling between the idea of systems engineering, where you describe a system and its subcomponents, its functions, and the decomposition that you're doing there, with the idea of having this capability of cross-disciplinary and cross-system configuration management. One of the standards that is essential to us is OSLC, and especially the configuration management protocols within OSLC. So we want to stay on this. I'm personally completely convinced that a PLM system has to deliver also, let's say, specific advantages to the business it is covering. This kind of support will be in the configuration of available tools then. With Windchill in combination with ThingWorx is coming pretty close to what is a kind of target picture in terms of, let's say, connectivity and flexibility. This idea of using, let's say, RESTful APIs and having a layer that easily connects, having a handy platform with respect to low-code programming where I can create my user interfaces and so on.
Having the ability to collect and connect product data is absolutely key. This connectivity then extends to products, machines, and their sensors for a complete product definition. How important is connected data in terms of your digital thread and holistic PLM program?
Connected data and the so-called AIoT cycle is kind of essential to us. And then again, a typical Bosch answer is that there is not one unique, let's say, approach how to do this, but this again varies with the different products and technologies and businesses. Meanwhile, see a number of those examples where manufacturing or even the operation data goes immediately into the engineering process, especially with new products. One example is the solid oxide fuel cell for stationary use. We are just learning how the devices operate and perform out in the field, and directly are feeding this runtime information back into the development procedure on the one hand. Other examples are models that are, let's say, known under predictive health or predictive maintenance, where we are using, let's say, operational information from those products in order to determine either, let's say, the next service or the next maintenance, or where we are putting this information back into the operating scheme. You know that with the special operation, you drive the unit into a certain amount of stress. You try to prevent this operational fields that induce a lot of stress into a specific component.
Today's manufacturers make decisions that can have a great impact on the environment and people. Green engineering is the use of product development processes and solutions to design, develop, manufacture, and service products in a way that promotes sustainability, minimizes pollution, and reduces the risk to human health. Bosch has been implementing green engineering in their processes.
We are already CO2 neutral. We think that the digital twin representing a product and product instances can enable the, let's say, tracking of also the ingredients of a product. This information can be, by the means of the digital twin, can then be used, for example, when the product has to be recycled, to be able to track and trace what went into the product on the one hand. And then it is, again, closing the loop. Yeah. And see, okay, if I have, for example, recycling in mind, how do I change my way to design the product? How do I consider, for example, materials that go into the product with respect to not the performance within operation or the manufacturability, but also the ability to recycle.
It's back to digital thread.
Yeah, it's again the same story. We are supporting with the capabilities that we have from digitalization, we are supporting this as well. In practice, it is a kind of triangle. So beside all the activities that we are running in R&D, there are additional activities, a huge initiative in order to transform from SAP R3 to S4, which also, let's say, kind of readjusts the IT architecture within the, let's say, commercial area. And on the other edge of the triangle, my colleagues from the manufacturing departments are running an initiative that's internally called BMLP, the Bosch Manufacturing and Logistics Platform, which is, again, a digitalization approach based on the same ideas, on the same standards, but goes then into functionalities that are required for a very efficient production procedure. As Bosch has something like 250 plants,
yes,
crossed over the world. Yeah. We were supplying them, but not only them, with this kind of IT technology, which contains elements then in order to deliver data.
What is the role of cloud and SaaS, and how do you see that in the future?
Cloud is an enabler, especially for collaboration scenarios, especially cross-enterprise, of course. So this is a driver. We are in a kind of hybrid scenario, but in practice, we see a mix with the increasing tendency towards those cloud-based services.
Olaf and the team at Bosch have taken a pragmatic approach to digital transformation with many value-driven proof points. They have not only accelerated the pace of product development by sharing the right product information, but they've also created a model-based enterprise connecting engineering, manufacturing, supply chain, operations, and service teams through a holistic PLM program and the digital thread. This enables Bosch to do even more efficiently, while improving people's quality of life worldwide with smart, connected, and innovative products.
안녕하세요. PTC 커스터머 석세스 매니저 김지하 부장입니다. 저는 PTC에서 여러분들이 저희 제품을 사용함에 있어서 조금 더 편하고 더 잘 쓸 수 있게 돕는 일을 하고 있습니다. 오늘은 디지털 추적성 관련해서 멀티캐드 MBD 그리고 MBE 관련된 말씀 몇 가지 드리려고 합니다. 일단 MBE에 들어가기 앞서서 국내에는 현재 MBD를 적용한 사례가 많지 않기 때문에 MBD 관련된 거를 몇 가지 짚고 진행을 하겠습니다. MBD를 잠깐 맛배기로 조금 보여드리자면 이렇게 생겼습니다. 쉽게 말해서 무도면이라고도 하는데 이제 도면에 들어가는 모든 뷰들을 3D 자체에다가 이런 식으로 구성을 할 수가 있고 치수라든지 G톨이라든지 이런 것들을 전부 다 3D 모델상에 입력을 하게 됩니다. 몇 가지 기능을 조금 짧게 보여드리자면 완전히 무도면 상태로 이거를 활용을 하는 건 아니고요. 요거를 공유를 함에 있어서 여러 가지 방법이 있는데 PLM을 통해서 공유하는 방법도 있지만 만약에 PLM을 사용을 하지 않고 3D 파일 자체를 파일로 공유를 하고 싶다 할 때는 보통 스텝 파일로 공유를 하게 되고 스텝 파일의 그 버전 중에서도 AP242 같은 걸 선택을 하게 되면은 3D 모델에 표시한 이런 3D 주석들을 다 내보내기가 가능하고 데이텀이라든지 파셋이라든지 케이블이라든지 그리고 파라미터까지 함께 내보내기가 가능합니다. 또한 요거를 저희 PTC 크레오 뷰 파일 포맷으로 내보내기를 하면은 이렇게 PBZ 포맷으로 내보내기를 해서 공유를 할 수가 있고 그리고 받는 사람 입장에서는 크레오 뷰 익스프레스라는 무료 뷰어를 설치를 해가지고 아까 전에 구성을 해놨던 MBD 이런 정보들을 PMI 정보들을 그대로 볼 수가 있고 추가로 크레오 뷰의 기능을 사용해서 이 면과 면 사이에 거리를 잰다든지 하는 여러 가지 기능들을 활용할 수가 있습니다. 그리고 한 가지 요거를 굳이 도면으로 또는 2D 포맷으로 문서 형태로 보내야 되는 상황이 올 때도 요거를 프린트를 가서 요 아래에 구성이 되어 있던 탭들을 이제 필요한 것들만 선택을 하고 회사에서 주로 사용하시는 포맷을 선택을 해서 PDF나 아니면 바로 프린터로 내보내기가 가능합니다. 하나씩 프린트를 하고 있는 거고요. 요거를 이런 식으로 열어보면 이렇게 종이로 프린트할 수 있는 포맷으로 내보내기가 가능합니다. 짧게 보여드렸고요. MBD 관련해 가지고 PTC 크레오에서는 지난 수년간 되게 많은 개발을 해 왔습니다. 크레오 4.0을 한국에 있는 고객분들이 많이 사용하고 계신데 크레오 4.0부터 어떤 기능들이 개발이 돼서 추가가 됐는지 수많은 기능들 중에서 몇 가지만 제가 추려왔습니다. 크레오 4.0에 들어간 기능 중에는 완전한 시멘틱 정의라고 해서 이런 것들 제가 아까 전에 보여드린 대로 이런 주석들이나 데이텀들을 아까 전에 스텝 파일 242 포맷으로 내보내기가 가능하고 시멘틱이라는 것은 그 정보들이 그 PMI 정보들이 검사 장비라든지 아니면 검사 장비와 그와 관련된 소프트웨어에서도 인식이 가능하다는 걸 의미합니다. 그리고 기존의 크레오를 프로 2 버전부터 사용을 하셨던 분들은 보시면 아시겠지만 이런 애노테이션을 표현함에 있어서의 UI가 많이 개선이 돼서 조금 더 직관적으로 기하 공차를 생성할 수가 있고 좀 더 편하게 3D 주석들을 입력을 할 수가 있습니다. 그리고 GD&T 어드바이저가 크레오 4.0에 추가가 됐습니다. 이런 주석들을 PMI 정보들을 생성함에 있어서 이제 여러 사람들이 생성하다 보면 서로 다른 방법으로 생성을 할 때가 있기 때문에 그것들의 생성을 돕는 기능이 추가됐습니다. 이거는 이제 별도의 모듈인데 GD&T 어드바이저 모듈이 있으신 경우에는 이거를 활용하게 되면 화면에 보시는 것처럼 이런 좀 표준에 적합한 주석들을 좀 표기를 할 수가 있고, 만약에 실수로 표기를 하게 되면은 그것들에 대한 정보를 이런 식으로 알림으로 알려주기도 하면서 이렇게 관련된 것들만 선택이 가능하게끔 이렇게 좀 사용자에게 가이드를 줍니다. 크레오 5.0에 추가된 몇 가지 말씀드리겠습니다. 이거는 시멘틱 쿼리라고 해서 사용자가 이런 GD&T를 생성을 할 때에 이런 식으로 화면에 이 GD&T가 어떤 면들 또는 어떤 것들과 관련이 되어 있는지를 바로바로 알려주는 기능이 추가됐습니다. 이런 식으로. 그리고 레거시 주석 변환이라는 것은 기존에 생성되어 있던 데이텀이나 뭐 다른 것들을 현재 데이텀 피처 심볼로 기하공차를 유지하면서 변환하는 기능을 지원을 하고요. 그리고 3D 주석을 이제 표현함에 있어서 이런 것들을 좀 도와줄 수 있는 이런 미니 툴바가 5.0에 추가됐습니다. 그리고 크레오 6.0입니다. 메모 기능을 메모 주석을 생성함에 있어서 조금 더 직관적으로 생성하고 좀 편리하게 생성할 수 있도록 워크플로우가 개선이 되었고요. 그리고 주석을 구성하는 요소들을 한 주석 피처에서 다른 주석 피처로 수정할 필요 없이, 피처를 수정할 필요 없이 이동하는 게 지원이 되고요. 그리고 모델 간 커피 지오메트리와 같은 기능을 사용할 때 주석들이 좀 더 수월하게 전달될 수 있도록 개선이 되었고, 모델 체크 범위의 주석이나 기준, 그리고 컴바인드 스테이치 같은 것들이 추가가 되었습니다. 크레오 7.0에서는 ISO나 ASME 표준 선택 기능이 추가가 돼서 이제 ISO 버전, 2개의 ISO 버전, 그리고 2개의 ASME 표준, 이걸 이제 선택을 해가지고 이제 표현하는 GD&T의 기준을 정의를 할 수가 있게 되었고요. 그리고 공차 분석을 예전에 TAE 요거를 크레오 이지 톨 기능으로 업그레이드를 해서요. 1D 공차 분석을 함에 있어서 약간 환경을 개선을 했습니다. 그리고 크레오 8.0입니다. 심볼 도구 기능을 개선을 해서 이런 심볼들을 표기를 할 때 있어서 이제 편의성을 조금 개선을 했고요. GD&T 어드바이저 기능 같은 경우는 기존에는 파트만 지원을 하다가 지금은 크레오 8.0부터는 어셈블리도 지원합니다. 그리고 서피스 복수 선택 기능은 이 GD&T를 표현함에 있어서 여러 개의 서피스를 선택을 해야 될 경우가 많은데, 그 여러 개의 서피스를 선택하는 거를 편의성을 조금 개선을 하였습니다. 크레오 9.0입니다. 표면 처리 전용 도구 탭을 적용을 해서 표면 처리 기호들을 생성하는 것들을 조금 편하게 개선을 했고요. 그리고 ASME 그리고 ISO 표준 호환 표면 처리 심볼을 지원해서 이런 화면에 보시는 것 같은 것들을 생성함을 조금 더 편리하게 쉽고 편리하게 생성할 수 있도록 개선을 하였습니다. 여기까지가 이제 MBD 관련된 몇 가지 기능을 제가 말씀을 드린 거고요. 이것들은 곧 최신 표준에 맞춘 PMI를 설계자가 생성할 수 있게 계속해서 크레오는 개발을 해왔다고 말씀을 드릴 수 있을 것 같습니다. 이제 MB2로 넘어가 보겠습니다. MBD 또는 3D 기반의 프로세스를 기업 전체로 이제 확산을 한다는 의미인데, 이유인즉 기업에서는 제품을 개발할 때 하나의 솔루션을 사용하는 게 아닙니다. 보통은 이제 복수의 MCAD를 사용할 때가 많고, 요즘 계속해서 늘어가는 스마트 커넥티드 제품이라든지 뭐 자동차만 해도 지금 유압 시스템을 찾아보기 어렵고 대부분 전자식으로 컨트롤이 되기 때문에 뭐 다양한 ECAD 솔루션들이 복합적으로 사용이 됩니다. 이런 다양한 MCAD랑 그리고 ECAD 데이터의 좀 수월한 관리를 위해서 윈칠의 워크그룹 매니저는 작년부터 분기별로 출시하기 시작을 했고요. 기존의 CPS 패치가 아닌 별도 솔루션으로서 윈칠을 업그레이드할 필요 없이 워크그룹 매니저만 좀 자유롭게 업그레이드를 해서 최신의 MCAD 또는 ECAD 솔루션을 활용할 수 있게 되었습니다. 참고로 매 분기 출시되는 워크그룹 매니저들은 백 서포트가 되기 때문에 현재 사용하시는 윈칠을 좀 더 오랫동안 사용할 수 있도록 되었습니다. 새로 윈칠에 추가된 기능 몇 가지를 살펴보겠습니다. 솔리드웍스 데이터의 경우 스피드팩이라는 기능을 윈칠 내에서 지원해서 이제 대형 어셈블리를 가볍게 열어볼 수가 있고요. 그리고 워크그룹 매니저 상에서 톱다운 설계까지 지원을 합니다. 그래서 범 구조를 윈칠 시스템에서 구성하고 수정할 수가 있기 때문에 제품 기획 또는 설계팀 내에서 협업이 좀 더 수월합니다. 다음은 NX MBD의 활용 기능입니다. 윈칠 12.1.1 버전부터는 NX의 MBD를 지원하고 그리고 PMI를 매개 변수로 관리하여 유관 부서와의 협업을 가능케 합니다. 카티아 V5도 마찬가지로 PMI의 태그 기능을 지원해서 PLM을 통한 유관 부서와의 협업을 돕고요. 이제 화면에 보시는 것처럼 크레오 데이터를 이제 윈칠 상에서 관리하는 거와 거의 동일합니다. 마지막으로 ECAD 데이터의 통합입니다. 윈칠 내에서 마치 MCAD 데이터를 활용하는 것처럼 워크그룹 매니저 상에서 관리할 매개 변수를 지정을 할 수가 있고요. 그리고 EDM 솔루션의 부품 라이브러리 동기화를 한다든지 IHS나 실리콘 엑스퍼스와 같은 3D 서드 파티 부품 라이브러리를 지원하고 또 디자인 범 생성 그리고 스키매틱과 보드 설계 파일을 윈칠 내에 통합하여 유관 부서와의 협업이 가능합니다. 자, 이렇듯 좀 복합적인 MCAD와 ECAD 데이터를 윈칠 내에 통합해서 싱글 소스 오브 트루스를 현실화하고 기업 내 디지털 추적성을 확보하자는 게 오늘의 주요 포인트이고요. 이로 인한 결과는 제품 개발 속도를 개선한다든지 초도품 검사 속도 또는 제조 정합성을 개선한다든지 등이 있겠습니다. 하나의 사례로 ABB 플랜트 구조 설계 시스템이 있는데 기존의 2D 도면 기반의 프로세스를 이런 식으로 PDM, PLM 그리고 3D 기반 시스템으로 개선해서 정보 재사용성 그리고 타임 투 마켓을 개선한 바가 있고요. 이는 사실 한국에서도 템플릿 설계, 지식 기반 시스템, MDM, 디자인 내비게이터 등 다양한 이름으로 적용을 한 국내 사례들도 있습니다. 설계 기간을 단축하기도 하고 설계 오류 감소 그리고 설계 프로세스 표준화, 설계 품질 향상 등을 이룬 바가 있고요. 혹시 상세한 내용 궁금하시면 PTC 코리아로 연락을 주시면 되겠습니다. 다음 사례는 칼 자이스사에서 인스펙션 장비의 MBD를 활용한 사례입니다. 인스펙션 장비의 소프트웨어에서 크레오에서 생성된 3D 모델 그리고 PMI를 활용해서 초도품 검사 속도를 60% 개선한 바가 있습니다. 에어바스의 무도면 사례 등 여러 가지 MBD 또는 MBE 사례를 통해 제품 개발 과정을 개선한 바가 있는데 오늘날 디지털 추적성의 활용도는 사실 무궁무진합니다. 설계 데이터를 증강해서 제품의 검토, 마케팅, 제조, 서비스에 활용한다든지 3D 기반의 변화 관리, MDU, 또는 BOP 등으로의 활용 등 기업의 다양한 요구에 적합한 솔루션을 PTC에선 제공합니다. 자, 이 모든 것의 시작은 기업 내 수많은 프로세스에서 요구되는 모델 기반 데이터의 제작으로부터 시작한다는 말씀드리면서 오늘 발표는 여기서 마치겠습니다. 혹시 질문 있으시면 아래 채팅창에 입력을 해주시고요. 많은 도움 되셨기를 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies Roundtable. I'm joined today by Sylvine Datry, Global Channel PLM Senior Director, and Brian Thompson, Divisional GM of PTC's Creo CAD business. We are here to talk about model-based initiatives such as model-based definition and model-based enterprise, and how they can and are helping companies like yours improve quality and efficiency of processes across your business. So let's get started by setting some context. What's really going on in the world of technology and business that is making model-based approach so appealing? Sylvine, I'm actually going to start off with you. Given the amount of time you spend with customers, can you tell us what you're hearing from them?
Sure, Mark. So thinking about our customers and collecting feedback either from the customers themselves, either from the partners working with the customers, we see three key challenges which are impacting their cost, their quality, and their time to market. So the first one is efficiency. So we still miss good collaboration between the different organizations, departments, between the different geographical sites, and with the extended enterprise. This lack of collaboration ends up with traceability challenges, finding the correct information and updated information. Another dimension here is regarding the communication. So communication is challenging because we have a lot of information going on, and this is difficult to know what is important and what is not important. And the format of the communication is also a challenge. We have still 2D drawings, 3D models, text, and also emails going on. At this point, I'd like to highlight the fact that we have aging workforce, and this is a lot easier for the new workers to work on 3D models. The second challenge that the industry is facing now is regarding the quality. So when we talk about quality, we talk about quality as well as non-compliance. The 2D drawings are difficult to understand and they can be misinterpreted. Yep. And this leads in non-compliance. What I see also is that this is difficult to understand what are the critical characteristics, what are the critical information regarding quality, and to follow up those information along the product life cycle. Last but not least, regarding quality, this is about the lack of closed quality feedback loop. Yep. So here we talk about being able to follow the requirements and to validate them along the product life cycle. The third challenge that we see is regarding the time to market, which is impacting a lot the competitivity of the customers. There is a gap between engineering and manufacturing in terms of doing concurrent manufacturing. So they still work in sequential processes instead of concurrent processes. And we see a lot of manual handover going from engineering to manufacturing, which is creating errors and which is making the information difficult to find from the plant in order to be able to do their activities. So this last point is really impacting the competitivity, and they are missing potentially some product launches with delays, which is becoming a hot topic for the customers.
Sylvine, really, really good insights there. In fact, a funny story, just the other day, I happened to look back in some of my archives and I found this actual 2D drawing. And I was showing it to my 15-year-old and like, Dad, what is that? What is that thing? I see you doing all stuff in 3D and here you have a drawing, and it didn't make any sense to her just to see that. Yeah. So, Brian, I know you and I have spoken about this whole transition from 2D drawings to 3D model-based. What are you hearing? I'm sure you're hearing a lot about this as well.
Yeah, and you know, you're right. Sylvine set really excellent context for the conversation. It was really great summary of all the challenges our customers are having. And what we're finally seeing now is the opportunity for customers to get serious about not spending time and energy on the derivative 2D artifact. That's really all a 2D drawing is generally. If the 3D environment is fully capable of capturing what's needed to properly collaborate, to communicate all the needs, to do all the things to solve all the problems that Sylvine outlined, the 3D object does have to take on like more responsibility. And finally, the technologies are there now. So customers can, instead of worrying about spending really non-value added time in creating a 2D artifact, they can focus on building all the information necessary into the 3D model in order to capture what's needed for all the downstream stakeholders, starting with manufacturing and all the other stakeholders in the enterprise. But it's actually more than just that. That is, what I just described is really what people would think of as model-based definition. And what we're also seeing is because customers are now focused on the model, they're thinking more about putting value into that model and sharing that in the enterprise. They're also saying, wait a minute, we shouldn't be doing other things as part of the core engineering product development process, like say simulation, or maybe doing our NC toolpaths generation. We probably shouldn't be doing those things in like niche solutions, like point solutions that are not tied to the core engineering model either. We should be doing all of that with the core engineering model that's at the center of product development. And so we actually think of that as this concept of model-based product development. Now, that's not a term that you will look up on the internet, but actually it's really important because finally model-based definition is gaining ground in engineering. Customers are realizing we can put all the value there, and they're now realizing because they can put all the value into the CAD model, they better be leveraging that value in all of the attendant, the supplementary processes that also occur as part of the engineering process as well. So we see both. And actually, Mark, as PLM's leader, you are probably best positioned of the three of us to talk about what does that actually mean extending out into the rest of the enterprise. We heard it from Sylvine from a customer's point of view, but what are you seeing as you extend the use of that model out and really talk about model-based enterprise? What have you seen?
Absolutely, Brian. And as a former engineer, did a lot of stuff on the drafting board and 2D. We've come a long way, and I think from a PLM perspective, it's trying to bring a lot of these things together in terms of the true value is not just what the engineers put up front, is that how can we reuse a lot of that information downstream? And there's three cases that are coming up more consistently, and you touched on some of them, Sylvine. Number one is the quality aspect. Being able to take those characteristics in the 3D model and actually run quality processes on them, whether it's non-conformances, it's FMEA, or even a CMM machine, actually getting the information from the model opposed to a drawing. So that's number one. The second thing is the manufacturing side. Sylvine again touched on that, is this handoff from engineering to manufacturing. Now, if you take a lot of those critical characteristics that are in the 3D model, the dimensions, the tolerances, you're able to now actually be able to drive the process plans off of that and be able to measure that so there's full validation even before this thing actually hits the shop floor. And then if you take it one step further into the service, imagine being able to view the tolerances, the key characteristics of that model that are relevant for the service operation. Hey, it could be on a screen. Imagine being in an AR experience that you're looking at something and you want to be able to go and say, what did the engineer have in mind when they designed it? This is the key tolerance. So this is all downstream stuff, which is really good. But we're also seeing an interesting pull from our customers, even upstream, as in being able to tie requirements, test specification. Because of the traceability and compliance, the engineer can go in and say, this tolerance is tied to this requirement. So guess what? If that changes, the entire value chain gets notified of those changes. So while we talk about all of these things in isolation, the whole thing of, like you said, Brian, model-based product development is about making sure these stakeholders in the organization get communicated at all times. So it has grown pretty dramatically in what customers are able to do today. And it will be a cycle to, going away from that drawing that I had to get there. So one of the big things that customers are very interested in, and Brian, I'm going to start off with you, is, okay, how do we actually get started? And one of the big myths that is out there is that there's a lot of work for the engineers to do. There's not much value. We talked about the value here. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, the myth part is an important point. Many times customers think about model-based definition as, I would say, a direct, almost pin-for-pin replacement for everything they're doing in 2D. And that is, you have to sort of try to break that mindset. It's not, and it shouldn't be, because if that's what it becomes for you, then you're actually introducing inefficiencies that are not necessary into the process. You really have to think about, what does the enterprise need to communicate the intent of this 3D design downstream to all the stakeholders that you just really did a great job outlining. And the rules for that should be different, because you're no longer constrained to document everything in 2D. And so one of the standard myths that customers really need to take a step back and look at is they're going to apply the same process they did before in 3D, but they're going to apply it in 3D instead of doing it in 2D. No, you really want to take a step back, apply a new process to documenting and delivering your content down in 3D. And what you'll end up finding is the 3D artifact at the center of everything you do, it actually ends up being less work, but it is a process change. Customers do have to be willing to change their process. It ends up being less work because there's very little, if any, derivative information now added back to the model. Everything you put in that model should be there anyway for purposes of making the model a real model as part of your design, right? So the first thing to recognize is that it's going to be a process change. You have to embrace that, and you have to get a team together to go demonstrate the value of that in small chunks to really get some quick wins in the company to demonstrate that value. But as long as you're up for that, we've seen plenty of customers do that, and they're starting to be very, very successful with it.
Great. Yeah, I mean, the process change is a big deal.
Right.
Sylvine, let me kind of ask you as well. In the companies that you're speaking to, this organizational change management is actually a big piece in how to get started. Any thoughts from your end on that topic too?
Sure. So I'd like to say that it's important to consider that we are not only implementing tools, but we are implementing tools, optimizing processes, and making changes in the way people do their jobs. And as a matter of fact, when we implement such initiatives, we need to consider the tools, the processes, and the people. So this is why the change dimension is really important, and we need to focus on the adoption of the users. I'd like to share some best practices coming from customers, which are really about starting by a small project, as Brian explained. So the recommendation, and this is quite interesting even to provide some metrics, the recommendation is to start by a project with 3 to 4 persons, not more than 3 months. And then, I mean, to be able to use the solutions out of the box. So those are really the success factors that makes the customer more successful. And as a matter of fact, when they've done this kind of project, then they can measure the benefits, and then they can scale the project, the initiatives into the complete enterprise, the complete value chain. So this is really the feedback that I'm getting regarding how to implement such initiatives.
Okay, you know, I really like that point that Sylvain made about using off-the-shelf technology. Too often customers will customize the technology to get a pilot project done, and then exactly to the point she made, we'll have difficulty scaling it into the rest of the enterprise, even though the rest of the company is really excited about these model-based enterprise benefits that they got. They have trouble scaling it because they customize the technology, and now they have to roll a customization out to the rest of the company and maintain it over time. And to Sylvain's really smart point, they'll have the opportunity to scale it then much more easily because it's all off-the-shelf technology, right? I thought that was a really important point to make sure we emphasize.
Yeah, I mean, good call out all around on, this is process change. This is using out of the box as much as possible, starting small and then scaling. But this idea of staying standard and then being able to grow is key. And again, thank you, Sylvain, for pointing that out. So I think that really gets us to the top of our time. We could spend a lot more time, but there's a few different things that came out obviously here is model-based design, model-based enterprise, model-based product development is here to stay. It's going to be a process. It's more than, it's tools, technologies, people, organizational change management, staying standard out of the box. There's a lot of benefits to getting there. And I think it was a good conversation with both of you today. Sylvain, I'd like to thank you for joining us remotely and sharing those insights with us. And same with you, Brian, for joining me here in the studio. Glad to have both of you with me today.
My pleasure, Mark and Brian.
Good to see you, Sylvain.
All right. And so to wrap this up, I want to thank you all for joining us today in the audience. I hope you found this interesting. We definitely did in sharing these emerging technologies with you and the role of model-based design and model-based enterprise. Thanks again. Take care.
Hello, I'm Hedley Appley, General Manager for PTC's Systems and Software Engineering Business Unit. In addition to my work at PTC, I'm a member of the Board of Directors at the OMG, which is the body responsible for standards such as SysML for Model-Based Systems Engineering, UML for Software Design, and RecIF for Requirements Interchange. In a world where product complexity is growing at record pace and smart connected products are becoming the norm, traditional document-centric tools and best practices are no longer suitable for contemporary, multidisciplinary distributed systems engineering. PTC's digital thread extends PLM with requirements engineering, test management, and model-based systems engineering to enable collaboration and coordination across the whole product, connecting all engineers and disciplines. Here's a simplified example with a mix of engineering disciplines doing their part to design and build a car. Mechanical, hydraulic, electrical, electronics, and software engineers working on everything from the chassis to the drivetrain, braking, infotainment, and much more. While the objective is to integrate everything together to build the car, they all use different engineering languages, skills, and techniques. This tends to result in individual engineering threads. In addition to these engineering language barriers, the various disciplines tend to have different cadences. For example, designing and building a new chassis using a new press can take months or even years. But at the other extreme, software can be delivered pretty much continuously. This can lead to significant coordination challenges while also providing the opportunity for performance improvements. The third whole product engineering challenge we need to consider is tooling. Each engineering domain has a specialist design and engineering tool such as CAD, ECAD, software modeling, PLM, and ALM tools. They may or may not be connected or integrated, and this results in inconsistency and inefficiency. Then, as well as the coordination challenges inside one organization, there's also supply chain and integration collaboration changes throughout the whole supply chain. So far, we've considered a trouble-free, multidiscipline engineering process, but in reality, changes in one area may impact another. So, for example, removing a sensor could impact the software which is expecting to receive sensor data. Enlarging an electrical cable diameter may have a knock-on effect on the diameter of the hole in the car body through which that cable runs. As well as improving the connections and collaboration between the engineering disciplines during the design and engineering process, we can also start to solve these problems earlier in the process, i.e. at the left-hand side of the digital thread. If we can set common goals, then we can ensure that all the engineers know what they need to do in pursuit of that common objective. One improvement we can make is to have the engineers use a common tool to document their requirements and associated tests for their specific areas of interest. Then extend this all to the left to include stakeholder requirements across the whole product, and to the right for the integration tests also across the whole product. And this is a great start, but as we know, it's challenging to jump straight from requirements to engineering and implementation. In the mechanical domain, we take customer market and regulatory needs and use CAD to design and simulate the product before moving into production planning. We can apply a similar approach to whole product engineering, using model-based systems engineering for whole product design and simulation. This gives us the opportunity to step back and consider the best implementation for each individual requirement. So here's a very simple example. Our requirement is to show the driver the outside temperature. With the technology available today, we can deliver this capability or feature in several ways. We could use an electronic sensor, which is electrically connected to the display on the dashboard, or alternatively, we can use a GPS location and call a weather web service to display the temperature on the car's infotainment system. Both give the same result, but there's many trade-offs for the whole product engineer to consider, including cost, quality, supply, etc. And while this might seem an obvious and necessary step, the opportunity to consider this abstract design really truly enables innovation. It also ensures that parallel engineering teams don't work on delivering the same capability or feature, while also helping to find design problems much earlier in the product lifecycle. So in this example of the whole product engineering digital thread, we can see that the product requirements which feed into the model-based systems engineering, where we design the functions and capabilities, which then satisfy those original requirements. We then allocate the functions to the logical design of the whole product. And at this stage, we can visually simulate the design, both to achieve stakeholder buy-in and also to find design problems early, much earlier than normal, when they're much cheaper to fix. We can then flow down from our abstract functional and structural design to allocate the design work to each of the engineering disciplines, optionally using requirements again to pass that over. And then once designed, manufactured and integrated, we can use the whole product test to verify the original product meets the original requirements and complies with the abstract design. But this is not only a one-way street. As the engineers work on their domain-specific designs, changes, limitations, and integration considerations can impact the next level up. And this is ultimately an iterative and incremental approach, with change impacts flowing back up to the abstract design and back up to the requirements. They can be reviewed and necessary action taken and decisions flown back down again. To make this process possible, we not only need to extend PLM, CAD and ALM with whole product requirements and test management and model-based systems engineering, but link them all together to form the engineering digital thread. Not only is this digital product traceability important for the design process and change impact analysis, but also to comply with safety-critical industry regulations, where manufacturers have to prove that each item is linked and traced throughout the whole engineering process. At PTC, we implement this digital product traceability using the industry standard OSLC, which stands for Open Services for Lifecycle Collaboration. This focuses on the links between the data in each PTC or third-party OSLC compatible product, and these links are direct links between each tool, so there's no need for additional linking products, saving you money. These capabilities are also deeply integrated, so you can use your tool of choice to create and see these links and traces. So let's take a look at these concepts in action. We'll start by designing a new product by documenting the customer and market requirements, and then reviewing them with our stakeholders. While displayed as a document for familiarity, these requirements are authored and stored in a scalable multi-user database. Now we can move on to design the key services provided by this product at an abstract systems level. And this gives us the opportunity to take a fresh approach and innovate. We can now elaborate each of these system level use cases with functional designs. And this approach lets us design the what before moving on to the how. And then as your MBSE process matures, you will also use these functional designs when communicating with your customers and stakeholders. At this stage, we can now visually simulate these functional designs to validate that they meet the customer and stakeholder needs. Again, this is typically an iterative process to find potential problems very early in the product lifecycle and fix them during design. As we confirm that our functional system designs meet the requirements, we can create links. And not only are these links useful to check that we've got functional designs that satisfy all the requirements, but also to check that we're not designing unnecessary product capabilities. As well as significantly improving the design process, these links form part of the MBSE digital thread, which is invaluable for regulatory compliance, for example, ISO 26262, and enable change impact analysis and managed change process. So now that we've decided what capabilities or functions our product will provide, we can decide how to provide them. We may already have some parts that we can reuse, and may also need to design new parts or new subsystems. And then as we iterate on the design of our system structure, we can allocate each of the functions to the parts which will provide it. Again, this helps ensure that the parts of the product deliver on the required capabilities while only including the parts that we actually need. Once again, we can use the graphical systems model to discuss the design with our customers and stakeholders to achieve early buy-in and avoid late-stage expensive changes. We can also review our designs automatically, a little like a spell checker, to find problems that are not easy to find by eye. And now that we have a system design for the whole product, we can allocate the detailed design to the engineers in each distinct discipline. For a single product, it could be mechanical, electrical, hydraulic, and software. And this ensures that each group knows what to do and that they're collaborating on a single whole product design. For these physical parts, we will automatically generate a first-cut high-level bill of materials in Windchill. As we defined and elaborated this EBOM, we can also create links back to the logical system design, connecting MBSE to PLM in our digital thread. And once again, these links help us to ensure that we build the right product and can trace the design of each part back to the system design and the original requirements. So we've now walked through the MBSE design process and its connections to the PLM BOMs, but things always change over time. New parts become available, system designs can be improved, and requirements can change. Our engineering approach needs to be prepared for these changes and indeed welcome it. So before we make a change, we can use the digital thread to assess its impact or alternative options. And once we make a change, then all the impacted stakeholders need to know about it. This is achieved automatically, marking the links to related requirements, system designs, or parts as suspect whenever a change occurs. This alerts engineers that they should investigate the change and then act accordingly. In turn, this then improves collaboration and the consistency of the digital twin. We've just seen how we can extend PLM with systems engineering, not only to ensure we build the right products, but also to find problems much earlier when they're cheaper to fix. PTC's digital product traceability helps us set whole product goals, which then flow into functional design and allocation to the best engineering work streams, setting the right objectives and significantly improving collaboration. Our OSLC implementation enables end-to-end traceability, not only to help the flow through the engineering process, but also to ensure regulatory compliance. Now, I recognize that many of these ideas that we've just seen may be new to you. So in addition to the PLM connected requirements, MBSE and test tools, we also have documented best practices and experts who can help achieve these benefits. This is a great example of digital improving the whole physical product and PLM collaboration extending to the right into the early stages of whole product requirements and design. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, please contact me at the email below.
Hello everyone, my name is Dan Rost. I am PTC's product management lead for our Windchill Plus offering, and I'm here today to talk about our strategy and roadmap for our software as a service solution. Today, the state of PLM is changing faster than ever, and corporations are going through technology revolutions to better collaborate with their partners and stay ahead of the competition. They are pursuing ways to modernize how they take a product from the concept and create phase to the manufacture and go-to-market phases. This is where the PTC PLM digital thread strategy comes in and has resonated throughout the PLM world. Most customers, in fact, have already started their own journey with the help of PTC. Making progress in the journey means, in part, making sure your enterprise applications first have agility. Some of the traditional challenges that customers have talked about include how quickly new product programs can be brought up to speed, how well system integrations and data exchange work, how best to manage frequent application changes, and speed of adoption of new features and capabilities. Another part of the journey is to ensure that your enterprise applications are easy to deploy, run, administer, and maintain. This refers to the various deployment challenges that are normally associated with traditional on-premise applications, which include deciding when to do system and platform updates, management of customization, and running the technology and hardware stack often across the entirety of the world in a cost-efficient manner. These areas are big reasons why PTC is focusing on enabling our PLM SaaS solutions, including Windchill Plus. Windchill Plus is PTC's new SaaS offering for the product lifecycle management. It's a Windchill Plus service that is always on, accessible anywhere, always ready to go to the latest version, always ready to enable new features or customer-defined processes in a frictionless and transparent way, all delivered from day one, while also eliminating all of the overhead burdens of what it takes to manage a complex on-prem enterprise application. For users, this means a faster, simpler, and transparent way to get access to new features without the administrative hassles and time cycle of new software deployment. It means a smoother, better performing experience without disruptions. It means not having to plan for managing your product development projects around frequent update or upgrade long weekend outage windows. For administrators, this means methodologies to apply new users, configurations, process changes, and objects like change sets in a self-service way. Most times, not even interacting with PTC or needing to create service tickets. It means not having to figure out long-term plans and schedules to deploy and implement a new capability module just to unlock new value for your users. It also means not having to investigate or tweak system performance or scalability of your system depending upon the day of the week or specific project activity. And it means you'll never have to search your way through multiple product and platform compatibility matrices to ensure that your particular solution is supported and interoperable. The Windchill Plus product strategy is aligned around enabling the full product digital thread with all the benefits of working in a modern SaaS environment. The Windchill Plus destination is intended to offer customers a better user experience and instantaneous on-demand expansion of PLM capabilities. The service itself is ready to go, and PTC is prepared and able to assist with standardized onboarding activities. Once you've adopted Windchill Plus, you'll be assured that your team will always have access to the best, most stable, and most secure collaborative PLM platform on the market today without any of the operating burdens and costs of an on-premise deployment. Plus, you'll have the full power and expertise of the PTC Customer Success Organization available to you. Today, you'll hear about our plans for the Windchill Plus offering and see how our roadmap priorities align with the theme of collaboration without boundaries. There are three primary areas where Windchill Plus delivers value beyond typical on-premise PLM solutions: platform management, application experience, and then Windchill Plus's SaaS unique features. The first area is the platform and the operational management of the architectural, technology, and software stack. To begin with, Windchill Plus brings value with an always up-to-date, always compatible technical stack. PTC takes care of all aspects of platform management, along with platform updates and upgrades, including applications such as database, Java, and operating systems. It also includes applying the latest security patches and other critical patch sets. The takeaway is that this reduces the management burden and hardware cost, allowing you greater focus on higher value business problems. The second area where Windchill Plus delivers value is through the application experience. That is, the day-to-day user and administrator experience with using Windchill Plus. Each day-to-day interaction that users and administrators have with Windchill Plus will be smooth, uninterrupted, and stable. This is delivered in a number of ways, but one example is PTC's use of optimized cloud-based tooling to provide monitoring, reporting, and analytics. With it, you can leverage advanced and adaptive system auto-scaling for performance in ways that could never be replicated with an on-premise deployment. Another aspect of application experience is the impact of application updates to Windchill Plus itself. In a typical on-premise model, these often result in user interruption, offline downtime, and disrupted project work. With Windchill Plus, PTC is able to offer a SaaS update with essentially zero downtime, where users are never asked or required to stop using the system or risk the completion of any transaction. We are also building the notion of frictionless expansion, essentially being able to access any feature in the current release through smart licensing and not requiring a separate install, design, and deploy process. The solution provides increased organizational agility. Design anywhere, manufacture anywhere, support anywhere, and use what feature you need as soon as you need it. The third area where Windchill Plus delivers value beyond typical on-premise solutions are the delivery of unique, SaaS-specific additional features. Features that naturally lend themselves well to operating applications in a SaaS setting. Many features that have been a first priority Windchill Plus are in the area of administration, specifically with self-service and distributed administration. This avoids the need for administrators to perform command line utilities and the need to make and rebuild file-based changes. With Windchill Plus, administration is being designed to be fully self-service with the ability to make and promote change sets, which could include customizations, throughout the dev, test, and production release lifecycle. Through Windchill Plus, you'll be able to reduce time and effort associated with system maintenance and take a fast track to value by eliminating implementation challenges. All of this leads to an overall improved time to innovation. So that was a big list of benefits. Now let's talk about what the Windchill Plus team is prioritizing. PTC's Windchill Plus product emphasis in the near term will focus on providing better PLM collaboration, a modern SaaS-like approach to system administration, improved visibility and metrics, all while operating in a high availability environment. Collaboration capabilities, of course, will include out-of-the-box compatibility with our latest and greatest Creo Plus collaboration, Navigate, and ThingWorx products. Also, it will include more standard and configurable integrations for third-party applications. This is important because for most customers, an on-premise upgrade often involves upgrade of many applications. We've heard from customers that this extends the planning process and increases the risk of user disruption. With our Plus solutions, we've completely taken this problem off the table by providing you an assured upgrade path and compatible product calendar. And being available on the cloud, you'll be easily able to expand geographically without borders to new user groups and/or distributed partners without having to set up complex data replication or data migration jobs, again, saving you the time and effort of these activities, which are often one-off or ad hoc. I've previously mentioned our focus on making the administration user experience dramatically better. But I'll also use this as an opportunity to add that another benefit of our self-service approach and putting control in the hands of the administrator is that it does it in a way that eliminates the need for multiple support tickets, things you would normally wait for your SaaS provider to do for you. A self-service approach enables access to built-in automation and on-demand turnaround for common system events, and eliminates the need for any drawn-out or multi-step sequence of processes by someone else. I've also mentioned our exciting capabilities around high availability. Ultimately, this demonstrates PTC's commitment to operate effectively in demanding SLA environments. Updates and upgrades will have full transparency, with options to even include unique customer validation testing within PTC's automated test framework. Finally, we have plans to improve system visibility and metric reporting. We'll have the concept of dashboard reporting for product life cycles, as well as mechanisms to actively monitor system and license usage. Future improvements on the roadmap also include the ability to create new reports, such as listings of user and group distribution across the product. This will provide you much better insight into how your teams are using Windchill Plus. There are a lot of exciting things on this roadmap, but it can't come all at once. Our feature introductions will occur at regular intervals aligned around the strategic priorities of the offering. Today, we are making available a turnkey service offering which streamlines and accelerates the onboarding process. You'll hear more about this in a following presentation, but in this phase, we're laying the groundwork for the migration and building the application and self-service capabilities for the operations user experience. The next phases we're actually already working on. After onboarding, we're prioritizing the capabilities that will realize operational value and user admin experience. For example, items that you see under Phase 1 are the distributed management of users and groups, zero downtime applications of patch sets and system updates, and mechanisms for administrators to submit, build, and deploy unique system configurations and change sets. Over time, we'll also see incremental progress and uplift in the expansion of our offerings. We understand that many customers have unique business requirements that lead to customization, and our goal here is twofold. One, we want to enable Windchill Plus features to eliminate the need to customize, and two, provide enhanced guidelines and checks to ensure that clean customizations are agnostic to system or platform updates. We also have ongoing plans to expand the notion of self-serve and frictionless expansion to new PLM collaborative features. So that's a quick overview of our plans. Thank you very much for listening, and please reach out if you would like to hear more about any of these capabilities. PTC is very excited about this transformation, and we are always looking forward to your feedback on our plans.
Hello everyone, my name is Thomas de la Iglesia. I am PTC Product Manager for the Windchill Plus conversion offering, and today I'm excited to be here to talk about the transition to Windchill Plus. I have a lot of experience when it comes to transition projects. Transition in the sense of moving your on-premises environment to PTC SaaS environment. You probably heard the term lift and shift, but what you will see today is more than this. This transition is being designed to enable you to leverage from Windchill Plus for the long run. I had the opportunity to be involved with many customers over the years, supporting them through such process, and I was able to hear feedback firsthand. I think that if I had to describe what we are building, I would use adjectives like quick, smooth, and seamless. We really want to help you to go through this transition to Windchill Plus quickly and with the best experience possible. As you all know, we are well into the SaaS transformation wave. This wave has been growing for the past couple of years, gaining momentum with COVID-19 and the switch to remote working. It impacts all of us, and you, our Windchill customers, are not estranged from this situation. And most of you have already started to shift workload to SaaS. As I said earlier, we also know you're looking to transition your Windchill environment to SaaS because you've been reaching out to us. Actually, we already supported many of you onto that path with PTC Cloud. And this probably brought us to where we are today with Windchill Plus and this new transition process. Windchill, as the leading PLM solutions for decades, has a tremendous number of out-of-the-box features to support your business. But we also know that one key factor that made you select Windchill over any other PLM system has been the possibility to tailor it to fit your processes and needs. However, over time, this customization flexibility increases your maintenance costs and support complexity. And it may also have limited your ability to upgrade timely, which translated into a higher total cost of ownership. We don't want to carry this situation forward with Windchill Plus. On the other hand, SaaS solutions cannot be as open as on-prem solutions due to security and operation reasons. We are building Windchill Plus to provide a secure environment and still keep some customization flexibility and autonomy for your administrative tasks. Yes, even though we'll continue to advertise for limiting the extent of your customization to the strict minimum, we don't want you to give up on this flexibility. With Windchill Plus, PTC will provide new guardrails that will help managing your customizations in a secure, effective, and controlled way. I'm confident in the value that Windchill Plus can bring to our customers, but I also know that currently, most of our customers have their environments on-prem, and we need to get you there. Change is always hard, and transition projects can seem overwhelming and lengthy. It's a road with a lot of obstacles. That's why at PTC, we have decided to support you. We want to remove the barriers, to create a route to help our customers to transition to Windchill Plus. And we want to have this route as slick as possible to make your journey as seamless as possible. By seamless, we mean minimum disruption to your business administration team, your end users, and ultimately, your business. This seamless experience is what drove the Windchill Plus conversion offering, a practical offering that will take care of moving your on-prem system, its data, its customization and integration to the latest version available with Windchill Plus in a matter of months and not years. We see this experience as a journey with three main phases: assess, convert, and operate. Think about assess as the discovery piece. We will want to understand your environment in detail, from hardware to configurations and customizations. Convert is really the meat of it. It will be about moving your environment, standardizing your customization, executing an upgrade and a validation, and then some onboarding. One thing can really catch your eye here. What is standardization? Well, this is what makes our offering so unique. In a nutshell, we would not move you in your current state. We would basically standardize your environment while we move it, so that once you are in Windchill Plus, we can operate it as securely and efficiently as possible, as well as support your customization in a way that they can easily be upgradable in the future. Lastly, operate. That can be seen as the end, but it's really the beginning. Get the best out of Windchill Plus and enable you to deliver solutions to your end user faster, leveraging the environment high availability and our self-serve capabilities. Now, let me walk you through a preview of all the creative ideas that were put together for you with this offering. As you saw on the previous slide, we will start with the assess phase, where basically we will want to know your environment and get insights from it. Not the regular way that you would think of, through questionnaires that are often cumbersome and with low fidelity, through tooling. We'll leverage Windchill Performance Advisor that will be updated with a new set of assessment dashboards. These dashboards will provide details about your environment footprint, your configuration, your customizations, and ultimately, your eligibility for the ride to Windchill Plus. Before walking you through an example, I want to come back to something I mentioned earlier, the guidelines, because they are a key and an essential concept for the assessment. These guidelines are being built with three major drivers in mind. One, to avoid security risk. Two, to guide you to have customization in a way they can be managed in our SaaS environment. And three, to minimize the impact on the upgrade process. The assessment dashboards will compare your environment to those guidelines, show what you have in your current environment, describe what would be compliant, and also what would not be compliant. For compliant customizations, great. There will be nothing to do. But for non-compliant ones, there will be different paths. Some of them will be remediable, meaning we will be able to rework them during the conversion project. Some others will have a deeper anchor, which means a higher likelihood to impact your business processes. In this situation, some pre-work will be needed, and we will need to wait for this pre-work to be completed before starting the conversion project. In any case, an assessment summary will be shared, and this report will provide guidance to the best path forward. We will strongly recommend engaging with DXP services, PTC Digital Thread Advisory Services, or your own selected partner to work on the recommendations providing for getting your environment eligible for conversion. Now, I just want to walk you through two simple examples to illustrate what I have just said. The first one will be a workflow with embedded code. Such workflow will be flagged as not eligible as per the guideline. Code must not be done inside a workflow. The remediation here will be to externalize the code to a helper class, and such remediation will be scoped for your conversion project. The second example will be regarding a custom modeled object. In Windchill Plus, we won't allow any addition or change to the Windchill data model. For this, there won't be an easy remediation. Hence, we will recommend you perform a pre-work activity to review this customization accordingly and identify a different solution to fulfill your business need. One last thing. We'll continue to update the guidelines based on your feedback and every time there will be a need for. In other words, some things not allowed today may become allowed in the future. And be reassured that these updates will be communicated timely, and should you have any doubts, your PTC account team will be able to support you. Finally, checking your compliance to the guidelines will become easier in the future as these Windchill Performance Advisor dashboards will be made accessible to you at any point in time. Okay, let me summarize where we are. At this step, we will have good visibility on your environment and its eligibility for the move. We will be in a good position to scope the conversion project, and we'll be sharing both our finding and what duration and cost it will be to move to Windchill Plus. All right, now let's talk about what's at the center, the convert phase. Once you'll be ready, time will come to kick off the conversion project. And the first step will be to export your on-prem environment, both its data and configuration customizations. This will serve two important purposes. First one, having your data for upgrade rehearsals, and the second one, building a working environment in our cloud that will be helpful for many different things, such as looking at a specific customization or execute Windchill diagnostic and repair utility, WinDU, WinRU. We see this to be of great value as it will avoid the burden on you to provision additional hardware for supporting the project. Depending on the volume of your data, we will provide different data exchange mechanisms and will support you entirely through this step. Once we will have received your data, we'll then move to the second step, migrate. It will consist of two things: standardize and transform your customization to the target Windchill Plus version, and do an upgrade of your data. I will go through each of them in a little bit more details. Starting with the standardization piece. And for that, I will reuse the workflow example I mentioned earlier. Let's say that during the assessment, it was found that you had a couple of workflows with embedded code. And some of this code was also flagged as overly complex and using deprecated APIs. What we will do as part of the standardized activity will be to adjust and get your workflow compliant per the guideline definition. In this case, we would externalize the code to a helper class. Then we would rework it to first modularize it, and secondly, replace the deprecated API with the supported API. We would also update it to match the target version API, and last but not least, we would create some automated tests that would cover this customization. It's a step that will be minimizing the impact of regression testing in the future. This standardization activity is crucial, as it allows you to keep benefit of your customization while allowing PTC to operate your system properly, reducing outages and easing future maintenance and upgrades. Moving on to the upgrade. During this activity, we will perform as many upgrade rehearsals as needed. It will be close to the current upgrade methodology that you know, except that we'll use new tooling that will allow to be quicker, have better repeatability, hence reliability and consistency through the process. This new tooling will highly contribute to optimize the conversion project timeline. Once the right level of maturity is reached, it will be time to move to the third step, validate or user acceptance testing. The system will be handed over to you in its updated version, with all the data for a final validation before go-live cutover and moving to the operate phase. To summarize, this convert phase is at the core of any transition project. And to ensure a smooth experience, PTC will rely on our preferred partner, DXP Services. Having a strong partner focused on this work with us, leveraging all the new set of tools and processes that PTC has put together, especially for this offering, will allow to make this experience as seamless as possible. Finally, with your customization updated and compliant, you will be up for a fresh start, and this will ease maintenance in the future and decrease your total cost of ownership. We are getting to the end with the last phase, operate. At go live, your system will be operated by the PTC operations team. The DXP Services project team will remain engaged for a hypercare period that will ensure a smooth transition into your day-to-day. It will be the time to put your business administration team back in the driver's seat. Have the final handoff to finally allow them to enjoy Windchill Plus self-serve features, to continue your journey, delivering incremental improvements to your end users, and more importantly, value to your business. That's it. I hope you liked this quick introduction and that it gave you a good idea about what you shall expect when you engage with PTC to move your environment to Windchill Plus. You'll be in good hands with our preferred partner, DXP Services, that will be executing precisely and consistently the steps we have just been through together. On my side, I was very excited to be your guest today. It was the first opportunity to share where we are heading, and now I'm looking forward to interacting with as many of you as possible as you're getting ready for your transition to Windchill Plus. Thanks, and talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies Roundtable. I'm joined today by Steve Dertine, EVP and Chief Technology Officer, and Catherine Kinnicker, or CK, our Chief Strategy and Sustainability Officer, to talk about software as a service, PTC's Plus strategy, the benefits that you can expect from moving to the cloud, and what that journey actually looks like. Steve, CK, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
So first, let's talk about the difference between a SaaS customer experience and an on-premises customer experience. CK, maybe you can kick us off.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of benefits of moving to the cloud in general and with SaaS, from the improved collaboration, from the ability to scale and scale securely. But maybe some of the really important benefits are always being on the same version. So no more of this costly upgrade process that people avoid doing because of the cost and time that it takes. Also, I would say maybe another fundamental is the frictionless ability to expand, whether it's expand users or expand new application modules. That all just becomes so much easier in a SaaS environment. And then, as I think about the journey that we're on, it's not just the one application, it's the integration across our portfolio and thinking about it from a digital thread perspective. So that really nice integration across the portfolio. So all of that from a customer perspective, really seamless, ease of use, and scalable, and turn on, turn off.
Yeah, I mean, that other thing just to add there is just managing the compatibility between versions of our software is another one there. Yeah. But Steve, can you just talk a little bit about PTC's overall Plus strategy, let's say even beyond Windchill here?
Yeah, so certainly Windchill is the big cornerstone that we'll talk a lot about today, but in terms of Creo and new use cases. So for example, much like our kids have in school and being able to collaborate in a multi-user sort of way, that's an expectation now of most software that's out there. So if we look at the processes that many of our customers follow, they still may have some inefficiencies in how they send data and collaborate with their supply chain, kind of throw it over the fence, if you will. And in SaaS, one of the things that we can do is understand, all the users that are coming, invite new participants that we otherwise might not be able to invite in our corporate environment that we have it deployed in, and have them participate, whether it's with Creo or on the factory floor with our use cases in augmented reality and shop floor instructions to the frontline worker. So one of the SaaS type experiences is, how can we identify every user and provide software to them instantaneously as your business needs change, as you want to enable more functionality and so forth.
Steve, while you were talking, I was thinking, one of the things that I think we've seen some companies do, which is when they say, hey, we're going to SaaSify an application, they're actually rewriting the application and creating some problems. Can you talk about our strategy there?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we want to keep everybody whole. So, and what I mean by that is when you come on to Plus, to Windchill Plus, Creo Plus, and so forth, is 100% compatibility with all of the functionality that you have, whether it's in the workflows, the change management process you have, bill of material capabilities, everything is 100% exactly, as it was in Windchill. I'll even go so far as to say it really is the same code base. We're investing in the same product for customers that are not on the SaaS journey. So the products that you're currently using today will still get all the same investments. We'll just have more capability on the SaaS side that we won't be providing in on-premises capabilities. So for example, multi-user collaboration that you'll see in some of the products that we have coming out is a SaaS exclusive sort of feature, if you will. But otherwise, everything that we're doing in SaaS is to operate at tremendous scale and security, to CK's point. As we talk about sustainability too, for us, operating it more like electricity, on demand, scaling up what we need when we need it, and turning it down when we don't. So it's more cost effective for customers and for us, better for our cloud spend in general. And on the security side, doing a lot of extra work in SaaS. So while I would say same code base, we are going to ask some customers to make a few changes because we want to operate more securely across those versions. So for example, integrating to your ERP system is going to be ever so slightly different because we're going to basically be a SaaS solution working inside of an enterprise that has security demands. Whether you're a customer that has extra regulatory needs, we'll also have to kind of comply with those as well, whether you're in aerospace and defense customers or otherwise. So,
one other thing that I would add to everything that Steve said is all our customers are at different points in either their current deployments or their journey to the cloud, and we will work with customers depending on where they are in that journey. And partners alike. So very flexible in terms of the timing. Over time, the Plus offerings will get more and more feature rich, and you will want to move, but there isn't a demand to move.
Yeah, we're not going to force anybody.
We're not going to force anybody.
I mean, to that, both of you use the word journey, and the interesting thing is the objective here is folks that are on premises today, they can end up in Windchill Plus and Creo Plus and integrated with the rest of the suite. So CK, can you just talk a little bit about that journey, and then also, if you don't mind, at the same time, talk about how our partners may participate in that journey, because we've got some scale when you consider our customer base that will probably be moving to Windchill Plus.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Tomas earlier today talked about a 3-step process that we're taking customers through, where we assess where they are, we convert, and then we upgrade and land them in our SaaS offering. To do that, and to do that across thousands of customers requires scale, as you said. On June 1st, we closed our transaction with what has now become DXP Services, which is a dedicated subsidiary of ITC, that has over 160 professional services resources from PTC have joined to form this new business unit, completely dedicated to this process and to implementing this process. So they're co-designing with us, PTC, the tooling, the methodology, so that this becomes a very repeatable process for our customers. And we can do it at scale. And we really thought long and hard about that in terms of making it as easy and as pain-free as possible for our customers. Now, that said, so that's a very specific partnership around that. We've been using the colloquialism lift and shift or SaaS conversion, but there's a lot to do across our partner ecosystem. I mean, for some partners, there's some decustomization that could be being done today for your customers. And for others, post landing in the cloud, there's a lot of add-ons, et cetera. And maybe, Steve, you could talk about how we're thinking about making it accessible to other partners to actually add to the functionality, et cetera, in a SaaS world.
Yeah, so CK, in the greatest extent, one of the things that we're doing when we operate as SaaS is, for example, there's no notion of downtime when we do upgrades. And every customer's on the latest release. And that's easy to say. It's very difficult to implement. In fact, many customers on-prem probably can't even satisfy that because the bar is so high. But for us, we don't really have a weekend where our customers are not working, right? Their factories are always working. And so for our partners, one of the things that we need them to certainly help with is we're going to give tooling to customers and partners alike to kind of evaluate what the customizations are that they may have. And they range from very, very mild to incredibly wild in some cases. And so for those customers that have some pretty extreme modifications to Windchill, and I'm talking like modifying down at the database level and things that we, for the most part, don't really encourage anymore. We can do most of that out of the box. That we would ask you to help guide a customer through what the process would be to put you back on a more mainline use of Windchill, for example.
Yeah. Just to interrupt there for a second, Steve. I mean, you said process, and honestly, there's 2 levels. One is if you're going to retire customizations, there's some process and methods change. Okay, check. That has to be done. But in another way, I mean, people are, implementing PLM as a means to an end, changing the way you do your Creo practices as a means to an end, using IoT as a means to an end, and likewise AR. And so there's a bigger digital transformation story that partners are participating in as well. That's along with all of the mechanics of moving from an on-premises solution to a SaaS solution.
Yeah, and I think over time what happens is we're not looking at the technical specifics of how this customization worked or how this workflow worked, but really enabling more transformative processes inside the company. In fact, that's where a lot of new value creation is going to come from, not from maintaining what you currently have, but from expanding into areas that you otherwise might have passed by because the ROI wasn't there to get through that first initial upgrade. Certainly doing all of this makes it easier so the customers can stay on those latest releases, and we could continue to deliver incredible value to you in any particular product combination that you're using.
Yeah, maybe one last thing, if and CK, you talked about it, that said, hey, we'll be ready for you when you're ready for us. And so what's a good time for someone to say, okay, this is a time for me to figure out whether I ought to go now or later?
Well, one key marker is if you were already ready for an upgrade, like let's stop, pause, and see if this is your final upgrade to the cloud. That would be one good marker. I mean, there may be others that you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, as you look at your plans over the next year or two, everybody has a 2-3 year roadmap of the various different tactics that you're going to take with our software or other softwares that you're doing internally, whether it's your SAP migration and what do we do around bill of material management, for example. Might be a good moment to kind of pause and say, what would we do different in our process that we're currently not enabling? And that would give you another, kind of foundational aspect to kind of decide when the time is right for you.
Yeah, and maybe one last comment on that. One of the tools that we will have is like this assessment tool to actually assess where are you relative to how easy is it to upgrade to the cloud. So that might be something that we want to get engaged with you as a customer sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. It's probably not a bad idea, even if you want to do it on premises, just to clean up your implementation. So, all right, that feels like a pretty good spot to wrap it up. We talked about kind of PTC strategy and the SaaS customer experience and, let's say, upward compatibility to the cloud. We talked about everybody taking their own path, their own time when they want to kind of get on top of that value. We talked about our partner strategy in DXP, which is going to help us scale and help our customers go through, let's say, a repeatable journey to the cloud. And then, we finished on a couple of good points in your normal rhythm, let's say, to think about doing Windchill Plus conversion. So, Steve, thank you. CK, thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining us for this short conversation.
안녕하십니까. PTC 코리아 솔루션 컨설팅 팀 리더를 맡고 있는 지순입니다. 오늘 저희 세션 즐겁게 잘 보셨는지 모르겠습니다. 저는 이제 오늘 들으신 내용들을 좀 요약을 하고 정리를 좀 해보겠습니다. 우선은 첫 번째 사례로 보신 제데프의 케이스를 조금 요약해 드리겠습니다. 설명에서 들으신 것처럼 이제 제데프는 과거에는 브레이크나 서스펜션 등 단품 단위 위주의 설계를 주로 해왔고 그러한 제품들을 납품해왔는데 최근에는 이제 글로벌 버추얼 팀들이 구성이 되고 그 팀을 통해서 시스템 모듈 단위로 제조를 하는 방법으로 급격하게 변화하고 있는 상황입니다. 그래서 이제 제데프는 윈치를 통해서 모든 부서가 똑같은 제품 정보를 볼 수 있게 단일 데이터 환경을 구축을 해서 신속하게 제품 정보를 공유함으로 해서 이러한 환경 변화에 대응할 수 있는 대응력을 갖춰오고 있습니다. 그 다음 세션에서 설명을 드렸던 이제 내비게이트의 케이스가 이제 제데프에서 적용한 이런 어떤 솔루션 기능들이 되겠습니다. 이건 이제 보시는 화면은 내비게이트 화면인데, 이것은 이제 PLM을 메인으로 쓰지 않는 그 2차 유저, 그러니까 좀 쉽게 데이터를 접근해야 되는 사용자를 위해서 간단하게 앱의 몇 가지 교육만으로도 굉장히 쉽게 회사 전체의 제품 정보에 접근할 수 있도록 이렇게 함으로써 제품 정보를 글로벌 환경에서도 쉽게 쓸 수 있게 하고, 그래서 이제 글로벌 버추얼 팀들이 그러한 어떤 시스템 레벨의 설계가 가능할 수 있도록 이런 협업이 가능할 수 있는 환경을 제공해서 성공적으로 시스템을 안착한 그런 케이스가 되겠습니다. 저희는 이제 또 다른 케이스도 들었습니다. 보쉬의 케이스였는데요. 보쉬 같은 경우에는 모델 기반으로 제품 정보를 정의를 하고 이걸 이제 3D 모델에다 그 많은 정보를 실었습니다. 그래서 이 실은 정보를 단지 설계만 머무른 것이 아니라 마지막에 이제 제조 공정까지 활용할 수 있도록 확대를 했고요.
그 확대 과정에 오는 프로세스를 전부 다 하나로 묶어서 디지털 스레드를 구현했습니다. 또 이런 것들을 이제 시스템을 넘나들 수 있는 영역으로서 OSLC 인터페이스 같은 것들을 이용해서 가지고 있는 시스템을 연결하고 이 연결된 시스템의 확장 정도에 따라서 제품 서비스까지도 이 데이터 모델을 사용하는 그 모습으로 시스템들을 구축을 한 그런 사례가 되겠습니다. 그래서 이제 보쉬의 디지털 스레드 예를 하나 요약을 좀 해보면 소위 이제 모델 베이스드 디자인이라고 하는 이 3D 모델 기반에다가 관련된 모든 정보를 싣고 설계에서부터 출발해서 그 내용들을 그 설계 전용 툴이 아닌 비오에서 볼 수 있도록 해주고 그 비오에서 또 부가적으로 필요한 생산 정보를 더 추가해서 이 마지막까지 가는 모든 절차의 데이터가 하나의 단일 스레드 안에 올라갈 수 있도록 그 다음에 그 올라간 정보가 윈치를 통해서 모두 배포 공유가 될 수 있게 함으로 인해서 설계부터 생산까지 모든 데이터의 사용자가 들러붙어서 그 내용들을 공유할 수 있도록 이렇게 활용한 그런 케이스가 되겠습니다. 또 다른 케이스 하나 또 있습니다. 저희가 이제 세 번째 사례에서 베스타의 케이스를 봤고요. 베스타는 특이하게도 그 대형 그 풍력 발전기를 만듭니다. 이게 뭐 대량 생산하는 제품은 아니고요. 고객의 주문이 오면 기본형 제품에서 여러 가지 유형으로 파생을 하는 그다음에 파생된 것이 그대로 주문 발주로 들어가서 생산까지 이어져서 반조립 상태로 만들어져서 현장에서 조립을 하는 그런 주문자형의 제품이었습니다. 주문의 형태가 다양하기 때문에 굉장히 내용들이 많고 파생 사양이 복잡합니다. 그런데 이 베스타는 이러한 복잡한 제품 정보를 3D 데이터부터 시작해서 E봄, M봄, 그 다음에 공정 계획까지 전부 단일 시스템에서 관리하도록 구축했습니다. 그렇게 함으로써 여러 시스템과 여러 프로세스를 다 아울러야 되는 많은 시스템 비용들을 굉장히 단축할 수 있었고 프로세스 자동화를 굉장히 효율적으로 만들어낼 수 있는 사례였습니다. 이 시스템 구성도에 보시는 것처럼 설계에서 오는 E봄, 그러니까 CAD 데이터를 등록을 하면 그 등록된 정보를 통해서 E봄이 만들어지고 E봄의 정보가 제조봄에 관련된 부품 정보로 그대로 연동이 돼서 활용이 되고 활용된 정보들이 또다시 공정봄을 만들고 공정 프로세스를 만들고 프로세스 내에 작업 지침서라든지 일러스트레이트에서 활용할 수 있도록 그 확장 연결을 했습니다. 이 모든 과정들이 자동으로 연결되고 이 연결된 내용들이 결국에는 이제 제품 정보를 이루는 하나의 스레드, 전체 라이프 사이클을 담는 디지털 스레드 구성이 되겠습니다. 이렇게 내용들이 연동이 되도록 되어 있습니다. 또 마지막으로 저희는 이제 전체적인 이러한 그 디지털 스레드를 담는 윈칠 PLM의 다양한 사례들을 PTC의 윈칠 플러스 제품, 이 플러스의 의미는 프리미엄을 뜻합니다. 그래서 프리미엄으로 저희가 서비스하는 제품인 SaaS 모델의 PLM으로도 소개를 해드렸습니다. PTC 윈칠 플러스 제품의 다양한 SaaS 적용 사례들이 기업들의 SaaS화를 굉장히 앞당기고 가능하게 할 수 있는 가능성들을 보여주고 있고요. 그래서 이렇게 다양한 사례를 통해서 PTC의 SaaS PLM 환경이 그 기존의 어떠한 솔루션 제공 업체보다도 더 앞서 있다라는 그런 모범 사례들을 설명을 드렸었습니다. PTC의 PLM 제품 정보는 통합을 통해서 제조 디지털 스레드 기반을 굉장히 쉽게 구현한다는 장점이 있습니다. 이 디지털 스레드 기반은 기업의 DX 전환에서 굉장히 필요한 시스템 환경이고 이 스레드를 얼만큼 완성도 있게 만들어내느냐가 DX의 성공을 좌우한다고 볼 수 있습니다. 이 스레드 구성에는 많은 비용과 노력이 필요한데 윈칠 PLM은 이 스레드를 정말 쉽게 구축할 수 있도록 지원을 하고 그것을 또 비용 효율적으로 단일 시스템에 많은 프로세스를 담을 수 있도록 구성을 했습니다. PTC의 윈칠 PLM을 통해서 고객의 DX 전략을 성공할 수 있게 도울 수 있다고 저희는 믿고 있습니다. PTC와 비즈니스 완성을 함께 하실 수 있길 바라며 지금까지 이 세션을 즐겁게 경청해 주셔서 감사드립니다.